Hey there, amazing viewers. Welcome back to our YouTube channel where we bring you your favorite manhwa recaps. Did you know that more than 90% of our viewers have not subscribed yet? So please, if you're enjoying our videos and want to be part of our awesome community, now is the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. Joining our subscriber family means you'll never miss out on any of our exciting content. So, take a quick second to click that big red subscribe button below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay notified whenever we release a new video. Enjoy watching and stay awesome.
This is Zhang Yi High School, known for being the most chaotic and lawless high school in the East 8 District. On normal days, you can easily spot students, especially the boys, having disagreements that often lead to violence in its hallways. Most girls here are often seen with very thick makeup on their faces. They are never of style, we can say. They do these to attract the hot guys out there. Some students gather not because of schoolwork, but just to gamble their money. Oftentimes, you can also see couples fighting over an affair. Just like here, these two ladies are fighting over a very lucky man. All of a sudden, a person was approaching. His steps were loud that echoed into the halls. A year ago, someone recognized by everyone as the most evil villain appeared at the school. As the man continued walking, the three persons who were busy fighting earlier compressed themselves out of fear. The two girls tried really hard to hide behind their man, but he himself was also terrified, sweating so much. The gambling students immediately stopped what they were doing as they hear the steps coming. Everyone was frightened by he who was making his way inside. His name is Zhang Yi. No one dared to block his way. All of them went on both sides of the hallway to give Zhang Yi a decent space as he walked past them. According to the legend, Zhang Yi once defeated 100 people by himself, taking no damage at all. Truly, he is a monster. He barged into a room and forcefully grabbed a man by his clothes. He asked him if he knew where the new student was named Bai Kai now. The man struggled to answer, but he still managed to tell Zhang Yi the location of Bai Kai as he pointed at the front of the room. A student with blue-colored hair was sitting near the blackboard, but she is almost completely covered by the stacked books on the desk. Zhang Yi immediately let the man go after he got the information he needed. He carelessly dropped him to the ground. He walked toward the blue-haired student in the room. The spectating students held their breath as they tried to figure out how the new student managed to get the attention of Zhang Yi, who they referred to as the devil. They felt bad for the girl who might experience his monstrous behavior. She's cute but quite unlucky, they think. Zhang Yi's steps were loud, bringing fear to anyone who hears it. Finally, he was in front of her. He stood there like he was waiting for her to confess her crimes against him. Surprisingly, Zhang Yi's intention was not the one they thought of. He asked her what was making her busy, wearing a very bright smile on his face. Everyone was shocked by what they saw. Some even had a nosebleed just after seeing what happened. They immediately started to conspire about her deal with Zhang Yi. The only reason she went to their school is because she cannot walk. The girl coldly answered him. She said that obviously she is doing some assignments. Zhang Yi wondered, then checked a paper from the desk. It was her first day of school, so why would the teachers give her lots of assignments like these? Bai Kai looked up to face him and then said that it was not the teachers who gave those assignments but the third-year seniors. Zhang Yi made a face of disappointment and shock at the same time. It was not acceptable for him to see Bai Kai do all these paperworks for those seniors. However, Bai Kai told him that it was just a piece of cake for her to ease his worries. She has a very high IQ, but he thinks that her EQ is definitely 0. After some time, he suggested bringing those assignments to the third-year senior after she was done doing them. All of a sudden, a couple of students were seen gathering around a fire at the center of the school's oval just in front of a building. A familiar hand threw a thing that resembled a book or a notebook into the fire while saying that Bai Kai was his friend. The fire grew bigger as it devours the thrown notebook. It was Zhang Yi who threw the notebook. He cleaned his hands from dirt as he said that he hopes Bai Kai to have a peaceful time at her new school. His eyes suddenly became sharp as a lion staring at its prey. He expressed her disappointment towards the seniors he was talking to. The seniors, all wounded and bruised, stood steadily as they listened to Zhang Yi preached. Soon they nod their heads exaggeratedly to him, probably out of fear. Zhang Yi, who was holding a bunch of paper in his right hand, then ordered them to come closer to him and start burning their own homework immediately. More and more paper was tossed into the fire until a huge student interfered. He wanted to stop them from burning all those papers, and so he jumped towards them. But he was late. The fire has already turned the papers into ashes as he came. The huge students frowned while Zhang Yi gazed over him. He was on his knees in front of Zhang Yi when he started speaking. He told them that it took him lots of effort just to convince the crippled student to do it. Zhang Yi then started to crack his knuckles after discovering that this was all his idea. It looked like he was ready to give a good beating to death once again. The huge student was not intimidated. He warned him of a probable death by bringing up a person who he killed before just because of talking so arrogantly to him. The three other students knew about the story Hades, the huge student, was talking about. They said that he has been staying low-key since then, but they think he has lost it now because Zhang Yi said the word he hates the most, die. Zhang Yi's eyes flickered to Hades as it tried to stand up from kneeling. Hades immediately lifted from the ground to throw an attack on Zhang Yi as he warned him of burning him together with the homework. His attack was powerful and accurate. His kick hit him hard. Because of that, he has been thrown into the air. He crashed into the blazing fire just like how Hades wanted him to. The three seniors thought that it is an obvious defeat for Zhang Yi now. However, Zhang Yi spoke. He said that it was not a bad kick while grinning. The seniors trembled seeing how calm Zhang Yi is even though he was literally on fire. He did not wait long. He immediately stood up and rushed toward Hades to strike back. He grabbed Hades and lifted him into his back. Hades has no time to think, for Zhang Yi's movements were fast. Like a wrestler, Zhang Yi then flung Hades onto the ground as hard as he could. Hades landed so badly. The seniors mouthed something again. They all agreed with each other that Zhang Yi is, indeed, the devil for how easily he threw the big guy just like that. Nevertheless, Hades seemed eager not to surrender so easily. He gazed up over him as if he has planned something worse. All of a sudden, he was holding a little knife in his hand. He stood up again and rushed toward Zhang Yi aiming his knife at him. Finally, as he went closer to him, he pierced the knife into Zhang Yi's stomach. The blood spurted out of his mouth after this. Hades grinned thinking that Zhang Yi will eventually die soon after stabbing him deep once. But he celebrated too early. Zhang Yi stood up and grabbed him again. Angrily, he told Hades that the stab was really hurtful. He then forcefully stroked him on his face using his knee. Hades fell to the ground with a red face. Blood was flowing from his nose. He could not believe how Zhang Yi still managed to stand back after what he did. Zhang Yi was not done with him yet. He gazed sharply at him and then he declared that it was now his turn to strike. He kicked Hades with all his strength, resorting him to be thrown high up in the air. He was so high that it almost seemed like an explosion when he crashed back to the ground. Hades was officially knocked out. He lost consciousness as he lay on the ground where he landed. Zhang Yi then casually pulled out the knife which was still pierced into him all this time. The seniors trembled as they witnessed what he did. Zhang Yi lifted the unconscious Hades off the ground once again. Still, Hades managed to utter some words. He begged Zhang Yi to let him go. But Zhang Yi still was not done, even after all the things he did. He told him that that kick was for Bai Kai. He lifted his fist up and aimed to strike a punch. He then added that that punch will be for him. However, the punch did not hit Hades because someone grabbed him back to purposely stop him. His face suddenly became serious. The person holding him pulled him again backward. Because of that, he accidentally dropped Hades back to the ground. The man grabbing him behind spoke and told him to stop being so hot-headed. He started to sweat and felt intimidated by this man because he was too strong, making it difficult for him to escape from his grip. He tries really hard to get away but he just could not. Zhang Yi was struggling but the man behind seems like he was not doing any effort at all. His eyes went round as he realized that he could not break free from him. The man's eyes twinkled as he watches Zhang Yi struggles from breaking free. Zhang Yi wailed loudly as he continuously wriggles his body in hopes of making the man loosen his grip. Out of nowhere, someone splashed Zhang Yi with water. He yelled at them and ordered them to stop making a scene. He also wanted everyone there to write an apology letter for him. Completely soaked, Zhang Yi could not believe that the principal was also there. He even wanted him to go to his office after cleaning up. Zhang Yi went straight to the bathroom to wash up. He thought of the guy earlier and how strong he was as he took off his clothes. He squeezed his shirt to get rid of the water. Maybe that guy was the new security guard, he thinks. Suddenly he blushed as realized something. He looked into his chest. He thinks that some water got in there. He has got a very muscular body. All his other wounds have already healed but the wound on his chest is still open, exposing his heart. He looked closer until he saw the chains on his heart. Then he started thinking that people were not wrong to call him a monster because he believed that he is one. He carelessly pulled out his chained heart out of his chest and started shaking it side by side to remove the water that remained. After some shaking, his heart is now better, so he put it back inside his literally open chest. Gray clouds rolled over on top of Tangying High School. The sky was angry but the principal was probably angrier. Zhang Yi quickly ran outside the principal's office saying that he is grateful to the principal but he has to focus on his studies now. The principal followed him. He was furious since he has not allowed Zhang Yi to leave just yet. Zhang Yi ignored how the principal's eyes blazed with anger. He just continued walking away. He even smiled at him. He ran so fast. He left a great distance between himself and the principal so that he could not go after him anymore. Suddenly, he saw Bai Kai in a wheelchair which is about to cross. He will surely crash with her if he did nothing, so he tried to dodge her. He lost his balance and stumbled on the ground because of the sudden change in his speed as he carefully tried not to hurt Bai Kai. He landed on his face. Bai Kai looked at him while his face was on the floor. Bai Kai spoke. She told him that she was actually looking for him. She wanted to go home. Zhang Yi suddenly realized that he had forgotten about his grandpa's birthday today. They have to get home early, he said. He grabbed Bai Kai's wheelchair and started pushing her. She told him that she has been sitting in the wheelchair for too long that it started to hurt. Zhang Yi blushed as he looked at Bai Kai. He had an idea to help ease her hurt, a piggyback. As he carried her on his back, Bai Kai asked him about the homework he delivered. He lied about it, telling her that he successfully delivered it to them. Then she asked again about the principal. He lied again, telling her that he was just looking for him to give him a reward for doing a good deed. Both of them were silenced for a few seconds as they walked out of the building. She knew he was lying. Suddenly, Bai Kai insisted to know and understand the rules of the outside world. She begged him to tell her the truth. Zhang Yi sighed and told her what she wanted to hear, that those seniors were just tricking her to do their homework. Bai Kai silently but attentively listened to every word he says. She wanted to hear more, but he told her another lie. He told her that the principal introduced a shady-looking man to him. Apparently, this man knew how to increase one's lifespan, surpassing the limit of 75 years allowed. Bai Kai believed it. She placed her hands to his face and then asked her if he told him how. Zhang Yi's eyebrows furrowed. He could not believe that she actually fell from his made-up story. It was complete nonsense. He then turned around to face Bai Kai and then he advised her to never trust anyone but him in science from now on. Bai Kai's were blank. It seemed like she did not understand what he meant. The principal watched them as they leave. He is angry that he's carrying the crippled girl. He thinks that he was just showing off. Then the vigorous man earlier advised him to be more understanding since Zhang Yi is still young. Then he proceeded to ask the principal about Zhang Yi's feats over the last 2 years. He wanted to hear the most unusual things about him. Zhang Yi and Bai Kai arrived at their destination. They called their grandpa as they clicked the door open. However, grandpa was nowhere to be found. They kept on calling him but there was only silence. Bai Kai turned on the lights. Maybe he has gone out with Grandma Zhao, they think. Zhang Yi scratched the back of his head because of that idea. Bai Kai then put down their present for their grandpa on the table. An old woman went out from a nearby room sobbing. She called Zhang Yi with a tone of urgency. She stuttered as she told him that his grandpa has been taken away by the Lifespan Management Bureau. Zhang Yi was shocked. It is impossible. He just turned 70 today. He started yelling and his forehead wrinkled. They could not take him away since the age for mandatory rest is 75. He crumpled his sleeves up as if he was getting ready for a fight. He wanted to call the cops and talk about this matter right away. But the old woman showed a letter to him revealing that his grandpa was not turning 70. His granda was wrong about his age. He is actually 75 years old today according to the records given by the Bureau. Zhang Yi was stunned. He grabbed the paper from the old woman and started reading it very carefully. Then he crumpled it up and slammed it to the wall. He was angry for his granda being so unreliable. He was angry that he could not get to say goodbye. The old woman tried to comfort him even though it seems like she was the one who needed it. While Zhang Yi and the old woman were having a moment, Bai Kai was doing something on her laptop. It must be an important matter. Finally, she spoke. She thinks that it is possible that Grandpa did not get his age wrong. Zhang Yi flickered his eyes to Bai Kai with questions on his head. Bai Kai then revealed that she had just hacked the Bureau's archive system and she found out that Grandpa's record has been altered. However, it still does not mean that their grandpa was not really 75, but it is possible. Bai Kai could not find the original data, but that possibility alone was enough for Zhang Yi to proceed with his plan. Bai Kai asked him about his plan as he left to get his things. He opened a storage box containing some of his things and said that he is going to pay the Lifespan Management Bureau a visit. He lifted his helmet as he told her that he will go to look for his grandpa's original record in paper form. Bai Kai warned him right away that the records were not open to the public. Going there with that purpose will be nonsense. But Zhang Yi was determined to do it still. He covered his arms with a metal chain which he plans to use as he sneaks inside the bureau. Bai Kai was shocked and worried. She realized that Zhang Yi was not planning to go there formally. He was actually planning to break in. Finally, he grabbed a bat made of steel as his weapon. He was eager to make the Bureau pay for their crime against his granda. Bai Kai warned him once again. She told her that the Bureau is not like the school. The security there is really tight. Zhang Yi does not seem to care at all. All he wanted was to break in no matter what he was going to face along the way. Suddenly, he looked scared. Bai Kai showed her something. She found out what the Bureau was doing to all that tried to break in before and showed it to him. The Bureau was killing them. The victim that she showed him was tied down with duct tape and bleeding. A person was even pointing a gun at his head. Strangely, Zhang Yi shivered in fear as he watched the victim suffer miserable consequences. Zhang Yi suddenly became hopeless. Luckily, Bai Kai got a plan. She asked him if he wanted to hear it. Zhang Yi's eyes widened and his face became brighter. He seemed eager to hear what Bai Kai has planned. She started saying that the Lifespan Management Bureau was a very dangerous place in a very serious tone, then reminded him to listen carefully to every word she says. She said that the archive center will be closed at 6 p.m. Zhang Yi followed carefully the instructions Bai Kai gave her earlier. He wore casual clothes that somehow hid his identity. He kept looking around to see if someone has seen him lurking around that area. As Bai Kai said, the only safe entrance is through the old guard post at the back. Zhang Yi successfully arrived at the place she talked about. Careful to not make a noticeable noise, he examined the way through. He pulled out a card-like thing from his pocket. It is a decoder that can be used to unlock the door. It will blink a red light when he's in a dangerous place. There is an elevator inside the guard post. She said that he must use it to go to the 5th basement floor where his grandpa's records are located. Shockingly, Bai Kai was right. Indeed, there is an elevator. He wondered how come she knew about all that. He was already inside the elevator when it suddenly activated by itself. Zhang Yi was shocked by what he witnessed. Suddenly, the floor selector of the elevator seemed like pressed itself to go to the 18th floor. Zhang Yi was startled. He seemed frightened and anxious about what might he encounter on that floor. He started yelling out of frustration. He wanted to go to B5, but he could not do anything to stop the elevator from going up. Different thoughts were running through his mind. He even thought that the elevator might be sending him to the 18th circle of hell. The elevator arrived at its destination, the 18th floor. Zhang Yi was holding tightly to the handle inside to avoid falling down. He watches very wary as the elevator slowly opened its door. He immediately saw that it was a room painted with pink-colored paint with books and a teddy bear. There were also pennants hanging on the ceiling. His eyes narrowed with confusion after seeing those things in front of him. He observed the room as he went inside. It does not seem as dangerous as he thought it would be. However, the decoder by Kai gave did not agree with his observation. Its light turned red, meaning that the room is certainly a dangerous place. It seemed like he did not notice the decoder. He has been busy looking around, asking himself if hell is supposed to be pink. Suddenly, he heard a sound. He noticed that the door closed by itself again. He became more confused with the strangeness of the room. Then the elevator door suddenly disappeared. Quickly, he grabbed the doorknob and tried to open the door. After one try, the door confusingly opened. Then a loud noise banged in front of him. Someone slammed the door shut using her foot. Out of nowhere, there is a girl behind him. Irritantly, she told her that it was her room he is trying to open. She rolled her eyes. He is not allowed inside, she added. Zhang Yi felt embarrassed to her, who was wearing a towel at that time. Then he asked her if she can just tell him the way out. The girl's mood suddenly changed. She put her face near Zhang Yi's and told him that he must not hurry to leave since he was already there. She almost leaned her body to him and she started teasing him by touching his body. Shen then asked Zhang Yi if he want to go straight to business since it is getting late already. Zhang Yi blushed after hearing the way she is talking. He thinks that something is off. This place is supposed to be the archive center. The girl's mood suddenly changed once again. She became serious as she agreed to him that it is, indeed, the archive center, and that trespassers will be executed. She grabbed him very quickly, then dropped him on the floor. He closed his eyes as he crashed on his back. It was so bad and really hurtful. When he opened his eyes, he saw the girl rushing towards him holding a sharp thing painted in gold. Luckily, he managed to dodge her. He rolled and then attempted to stand back up. He saw the damage on the floor made by the girl who tried to stab him. His back still ached, but the girl was not done with him yet. She sat on his back to keep him from standing up. She then grabbed Zhang Yi's neck and pushed his face down on the floor. She was strong, he could not get away from her. He thinks that he will probably end up dead that very moment. Then the girl calmed him down. She told him that she will not kill him, she will just break a few of his spiritual wheels. Her eyes widened. She was confused. She wondered where his spiritual wheels were. She could not sense them. Zhang Yi yelled that he does not know what she was talking about. He kept telling her that he does not have what she was looking for. She did not believe him. She continued checking him by grouping him. A person who was wearing a pair of red slippers was waiting outside. He seemed like he was preparing himself before entering the room. Finally, he decided to open the door thinking that Elder Zuo will take the blame for what he had done. He immediately saw poor Zhang Yi lying on the floor with the girl on top of his back, touching him. He was screaming for help. The two of them noticed the person who opened the door. The man recognized the person in front of him. The girl looked foolish as she stared at the man. Zhang Yi also recognized him right away. He quickly asked him for forgiveness for what happened earlier, then he begged him to save him from the girl. The girl's narrowing eyes flickered from Zhang Yi to the con man. She suspected the two of them to be working together from the inside. The man then leaned back to express that he did not know what she was talking about. The girl suddenly yelled with anger. He warned him to stop trying to act innocent as if she already proved him guilty of being a mole. He then told her that she was just being so illusory. He told her that he came there with the sole intention of asking her which high school she is going to choose. She was stunned. Her face changed and took a few seconds to speak again. Then she stormed out her anger, telling him to get out of there. She hates it when she is being asked about school. She already made up her mind that she is not going to any. The man did not leave just yet. He told her that the one who passed down the ultimatum about her schooling was her grandfather, Master Zuo. While the two were having an argument, Zhang Yi suddenly barged in on their conversation. He asked her to stop pressing him too. He also commented about her for still having a grandfather while his was about to die soon. Then he forcefully shook his whole body and quickly stood. That made the girl fall off his back. The three of them sat together, keeping a noticeable distance from each other. The man told him his name. His name is Hu Jiyugong. He also told him that he is the person in charge of the East 8 District's Lifespan Management Bureau. He then introduced her to him. Her name is Zuo Zai and she is only an outsourced contractor because she still has not got a high school diploma. Hu Jiyugong made a comment indirectly for Zuo Zai. He told them that that is the reason why young people should study hard. Zuo Zai suddenly stood up from her seat and shook Hu Jiyugong's body while telling him to stop being so blunt. Zhang Yi slammed the table as hard as he can, hoping it would stop the two from fighting like kids. It did. Their eyes flickered to Zhang Yi as they stopped attacking each other. They were shocked by that sudden gesture of him. He then put his hand together and then asked courteously the two if they can now start talking about his grandfather now. Zhuo Zai came down from Hu Jiyugong's chair. He cleared his throat before speaking. He started speaking. He told them that he already asked someone to contact his grandfather a moment ago regarding the matter of his age being altered. He then suggested Zhang Yi to ask his grandfather himself. Zhang Yi looked at him with confused eyes. All of a sudden, his grandfather appeared on a screen in front of them. He was wearing a sleeping outfit and he seems fine. Zhang Yi wondered how he could sleep with his situation. Does he even know that his age was altered? His grandfather answered. He told his grandson that he knew about it for sure because he did it himself. Zhang Yi was confused. He asked him why he never told him about it. Granda answered. He did not keep it a secret, he just never asked. And also, it happened over 40 years ago. It was his great-grandmother who laid down the law to not let your Granda marry someone younger. I had to alter my own age so we can be married. Zhang Yi got angry all of a sudden. He could not believe that he just threw his life away just to court a woman. His Granda got angrier. He warned his grandson to stop yelling at him. At the end of the day, if it weren't for him, he and his father would never be born. Besides, 5 years of life would not matter. It was all worth it. He was able to spend dozens of years with his grandmother. It is enough, he said. Zhang Yi could not understand his feelings anymore. He does not know what to feel and how he should react. The screen has closed. Zhang Yi was still frowning when Hu Jiyugong suggested escorting him out since the misunderstanding had been resolved. He stopped him for a moment. He told him that even though he did it for his family, he still managed to gain access to the bureau. It only means that he is not an ordinary person. Hu Jiyugong admitted that it hasn't been so peaceful lately. The system had been attacked by an expert. Maybe his Granda merely got lucky, Zhuo Zai thought. At last, Zhang Yi went to the elevator with Hu Jiyugong to exit the establishment. He then asked Hu Jiyugong about the additional lifespan he told him in the principal's office. He seeks an answer if it is true. Hu Jiyugong answered him that it is true. Then he asked if the additional lifespan could be transferred. Hu Jiyugong looked toward him. He understood it right away. He wanted to extend his grandpa's life. Zhang Yi nodded his head. He told him that he does want to extend his grandfather's life. However, Hu Jiyugong said that it was not that easy. And also, his grandfather already reached the mandatory age. It's too late, he said seriously as he walked out of the elevator. Zhang Yi believed that it's still time since old people are placed in a resting center for half a year. But Hu Jiyugong does not believe that he could obtain an additional lifespan within 6 months. Also, he had to pay a heavy price even if he did. Nonetheless, Zhang Yi is still eager to try no matter what he had to do along the way. Hu Jiyugong was embarrassed. He asked Zhang Yi to stand up first before talking again. He felt that way because Zhang Yi has been clinging to his leg as they talk about the matter. He gave him a chance. He then told him that he will arrange a test for him in the future. Loud noises of amusement coming from the students have been ringing in the school this early morning. Almost every other guy gathered at the doorway of a room. They were blushing. Maybe there was a beautiful girl in there. The guy suddenly tapped another guy's shoulder from behind. The guy tried to shake away his hand from his shoulder since he got there first. Then the guy behind spoke. He ordered him to make way. He knew the voice, that is why he trembled in fear. Everyone immediately left as if they were running for their lives. His eyes were dark because he has been waiting for the test. Hu Jiyugong. The student came back to peek at the doorway again. They joke around saying that the only thing scarier than yesterday's Zhang Yi is today's Zhang Yi. As he entered the room, a greeting from a familiar voice welcomed him. His face turned red when he saw her. Her blonde silky hair smelled like flower petals tossed in the air. Her skirt perfectly matches her look. Then she spoke again while waving her hand from side to side. She told him that she has been waiting for him since she came. Zhuo Zai's presence lit up the whole room brighter. Zhang Yi froze. He could not speak, which is why Zhuo Zai checked if something is wrong with him. He felt uneasy standing in front of her. Maybe he still could not get over how she beat him up so easily yesterday. Because he was not saying anything, Zhuo Zai thought that he did not recognize her. Little by little, he made a few steps backward until finally reaching the doorway. He suddenly sat on his ankle with his hands touching the floor. Then he launched his body a little bit like he is going to run in a marathon. Finally, he stood up and then quickly ran away from the room. The students who witnessed him run were all confused. Zhuo Zai was also left inside the room clueless. He found another room way too far from the room where Zhuo Zai is, and then he quickly gets inside. He was tired from running like that. It was like he was running away from death himself. He became observant of his surroundings. He was thinking about the reason why she chased him all the way to school. He heard a familiar voice again telling him that he has been found already. It was Zhuo Zai again. She was so extreme. She even entered the room by the window. Finally, she landed safely inside. Zhang Yi shivered as he watches her jump from the window. The first thing that came up to his mind was to save himself from that woman, so he quickly grabbed the doorknob to get away again. However, Zhuo Zai was quicker. She slammed the door shut, making a really loud noise that deafened him. Zhang Yi started to sweat much more than usual, so Zuo Zai began to say comforting words to him. She told him to stop being scared, that she actually came to say sorry, but Zhang Yi thinks that she does not look like someone who is going to apologize at all. Zuo Zai was dismayed. She told him that she has been busy earlier doing the breakfast personally for him. Zhang Yi answered that everything is okay, he does not need anything. What he wanted was for them to never be near each other again. However, Zuo Zai begged him to eat the breakfast for her to feel that he really accepted her apology. Zhang Yi stared at it for a moment. Then he quickly grabs one and took a bite right away. He purposely did it fast so that she won't have any reason to stay anymore. Zuo Zai finally became happy after he took a bite. Then she grinned like an evil who just did something wicked. Actually, Zhang Yi found the breakfast she made pretty well. However, after a few seconds, he became dizzy. Before he even finished saying that it was actually good, he already lost consciousness and passed out. Hu Jiugong was talking to another man wearing formal attire. He told him that Zuo Zai insisted on going to Tangying High School. The man's face suddenly became gloomy. He wished that Zuo Heng, Zuo Zai's late parent, was still together with them. Hu Jiugong understands that he was a friend of her late parents, but what she has learned from Master Zuo is not like things one can learn from reading books. He advised him to never treat her like the little girl she was once or he will regret it. Zhang Yi seems like gaining consciousness back. Zuo Zai's mouth opened wide. She wondered how he was able to wake up so fast. She has already tied him down before he even woke up completely. He's trying to break free from being tied up, but he cannot. Zuo Zai put her hands on her hips and sighed. She has proven that he is really not that simple after all. Luckily, she acted fast. Zhang Yi yelled. He told her that he already said that he was just a normal boy who wants to save his grandfather. A lot of characters already said that before. None of them is ordinary, she said. Then she continued talking about her Vajra, which is very sensitive to spiritual power. She stared at him and then told him that even though he does not have any spiritual wheel, she still knew for sure that he is no ordinary person. Zhang Yi wiggled his body, telling her that he does not know what spiritual wheel, demon subduing, or even Vajra is. Literally no idea at all. Zuo Zai then took out her golden thing, the one with the pointy end. She is going to try detecting his spiritual wheel again with his clothes off. Zhang Yi immediately thought about his heart. He was worrying about it being discovered by her if she was going to strip him naked. Then he noticed that the room they were in is the school's public address room. Something has come to his mind. He has to make use of the room to at least get help from outside. But first, he has to go near the audio console on the desk next to him. He wiggled and wiggled himself repeatedly until he makes himself near the audio console. Zuo Zai wondered what he was up to. She did not know, so she just let him do his thing, knowing that he could not do anything harmful in his situation. As he wiggled his way near the audio console, he purposely trips himself toward the desk. Doing it might trigger the audio console on. His head banged so hard on the audio console that his head bled. As she is doing earlier, she just watched Zhang Yi smash his head on the desk without knowing that it did something. He knew that it was a successful move when he heard a buzzing noise. It means that the microphone has been turned on. Zuo Zai walked toward him holding the golden thing. She told him to stop struggling because it would not gain him anything. She said what she wanted to say. But little did she know, their conversation was being broadcasted to the whole school. The students hear every word she said. They hear her when she talked about inspecting Zhang Yi's whole body very carefully. Even at the basketball court, it was broadcasted. They heard how Zhang Yi screamed while being inspected by her. The basketball players were shocked by what they heard. They even heard him saying something about her being an expert at undressing a guy. Bai Kai heard it all too. She was silently listening to them while doing something in the room. She immediately realized that the guy being broadcasted was Zhang Yi. After hearing all that, the students rushed to the public address room to check what was happening really. Every one of them was rushing. All wanted to go there first to find out who they were and what were they doing. When they opened the door, they immediately saw Zuo Zai forcing Zhang Yi to stop struggling and just do as she says. She then realized what was happening. She looked at her back and see that a lot of students are watching them doing their thing. Every student gets their phone out to record this uncanny happening. They thought that Zuo Zai and Zhang Yi were doing something. Zuo Zai's face immediately turned red out of embarrassment. She does want them to that they were doing the thing they were thinking. She let go of Zhang Yi and faced the students at the door. She yelled at them for the nonsense things they talking about. It was all recorded. Suddenly, she felt something familiar. It was the thing she has been looking for. She felt it in the crowd. She knew that among the crowd is a spiritual entity. But who must be this entity? Maybe the spiritual entity she felt was Bai Kai. With all her might, she walked into the crowd toward Bai Kai. She recalled things as she walks. 1 turn for the spirit, 3 for the transformation, 5 for sin. Students shivered as they watch her go toward Bai Kai. She could not even look straight at Bai Kai. That is how powerful she is. Zuo Zai continued. 7 turns into a fiend. 9 to become supreme, she said to herself. She is now in front of Bai Kai. Her hand holding the golden thing glowed. She then went to a striking stance, aiming the thing at Bai Kai. She noticed her hand which was glowing. She called it as 6 stars of Polaris. As it turns out, the stars determine the spiritual wheel of an entity. In this case, Baikai was actually a 6-wheel spiritual entity. She could not believe it, that an ordinary high school girl actually contains that amount of spiritual wheel. She knew it was not good to fight with the spiritual entity in front of her. Even 3 of her would not have a chance of beating her. All of a sudden, Baikai grinned. Zuo Zai's eyes widened. She was frightened seeing how she grinned like that. Baikai then pointed her thumb surrounded by an aura towards Zuo Zai. Zuo Zai suddenly could not move. Turns out, Baikai can control souls and she is controlling her now. Zuo Zai's body felt numb. She has lost control of her body. She wonders if it will be counted as dying in the line of duty when she dies at school. Completely not in control, she lifted her golden thing near her throat. And then she slit. She slit Baikai on her chest. Zuo Zai was confused by what just happened. Baikai was aching as her blood spurted out of her chest area. She was hurt, but it was all her doings. Then she made Zuo Zai lift her feet for a kick. Forcefully, she kicked Baikai, making her and her wheelchair to be thrown away. Baikai crashed so badly. Everyone thinks that it was just too cruel of Zuo Zai to do that. They did not know that she was not responsible for that. Zuo Zai does not get it. Why was she controlling her to attack herself? Baikai started controlling her again. Zuo Zai noticed it immediately. She does not want to do this anymore, but she could not help herself but to. She aimed her golden thing at Baikai for an attack. Someone rushed towards them. It was Zhang Yi. He quickly dragged Baikai away to dodge Zuo Zai's attack. As expected, he then yelled at her for attacking a disabled girl in a wheelchair. Zuo Zai wanted to yell back at him. He does not have an idea what she is. She is a 6-wheel spiritual entity who can even fly. Baikai was just listening to him as he preaches. Then she controlled her again. She made Zuo Zai rush towards them. Zhang Yi stood firmly to defend themselves from her attack. Very quickly, Zuo Zai grabbed him by his neck. Then she flung him on the wall so easily using only her one hand. Zuo Zai's mind is now filled with frustrations. She could not have done that with her own strength. She looked at Baikai once again, realizing how terrifying she is for being a 6-wheel spiritual entity. The students were all shocked. They could not believe that she just flung Zhang Yi away with one hand. Baikai was not done yet for her show. She controlled Zuo Zai again, making her lift that golden thing for the nth time. She wondered what she was trying to do. Baikai just looked at her, acting like she was not the one behind all this. Then suddenly, blood spurted out from somewhere. Some landed on her pale face. It turns out that the golden thing was pierced on Zhang Yi's back. Zhang Yi clung to Baikai's shoulder as he endured the pain. Zuo Zai sat on the floor, maybe because her knees became weak after everything that happened. She realized suddenly that the control was lifted. Baikai continued on pretending like she did not do anything. Zhang Yi lifted her up even though he was hurting because of his injury. He then told Zuo Zai to keep their feud between them only. She must not involve anyone in it. Zuo Zai could not stand up while she was being yelled at by Zhang Yi. She just looked at him as he burst out his anger. Then finally, Zhang Yi left her carrying Baikai. Zuo Zai wanted to say that it was all her fault, but she stuttered and chose not to. Something held her back from saying it. Instead, she stood up and just told him that she was not as helpless and innocent as she seems. Her knees felt weak after that, and she sighed. Everyone murmured about her for doing what Baikai made her do. In her mind, she wondered if Baikai knew the existence of the spirit extermination team, since she immediately reacted the moment she saw her. Their existence cannot be known by the public. How was she able to come up with that plan after all? She suddenly became angry when she realized how she brazenly attended school knowing that she was just an illegal spiritual entity. Zhang Yi put Baikai down on a bed and let her cover her wounded chest. She did it by herself. She covered it with gauze. After covering, she then put her clothes back on. Then she told Zhang Yi that he can turn around now because she is done. She was worried about Zhang Yi's injury, but he just told her that he is fine and that it was just a tiny stick that would not hurt him. Strangely, Baikai panicked after Zhang Yi said that. He then let her take some rest. She asked for that girl's name and Zhang Yi gave her all that he knew about her. Then he assured her that she does not have to worry anymore, for things will be settled soon. He then told her that he will go out for a while now. Then he stared at her with a smile on his face to show that he is completely fine. Right after he got out of the room, his smile turns into anger. He was thinking that test must not involve attacking friends or family. He gripped his fist close as tight as he can, and his eyes borrowed with anger thinking of what happened. All of a sudden, he leaned downwards due to the injury on his back. It seems like the injury is getting more painful as times go by. Blood dripped from him on the floor. It was unusual. Wounds like that heal really quickly, but this wound on his back does not seem so. Under the blue sky that lit the school, 2 students met on the rooftop. They were Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai. He told her first that she could test him all she wants, but just not touch any of his friends. Zuo Zai told him then that his test was already over. Zhang Yi looked at him with a confused face. He asked her if he passed the test. From the first time she saw him, she already senses a special aura on him, but the demon subduing Vajra did not react to him. Now she knows that happened because the aura she sensed was not his, it was actually hers. Confused, Zhang Yi told her that he got a feeling that they were talking about the same thing. She then brought out the demon-subduing Vajra and explained to him once again that it can detect demons and spirits. She can prove it if he would bring Baikai to her. Suddenly, the demon-subduing Vajra made a buzzing noise from her hand. Zuo Zai seemed to be surprised. Zhang Yi widened his eyes at the whites of its show when he discovered that the Vajra thingy can vibrate too. Zuo Zai raised her eyebrows. The demon-subduing Vajra is now reacting. She immediately warned Zhang Yi to be wary of the surrounding, for danger would be just around them. He just cluelessly stared at her. He could not comprehend what she was talking about until an unusual flow of wind flowed through him. He was caught off guard. All of a sudden, he was up in the air, and when Zuo saw him he was already about to crash back on the ground. Zuo Zai looked worried about him. It seemed like she is going to catch him before he lands on the ground. She lost hold of the demon-subduing Vajra. Maybe it was also carried away by the strong winds. The demon-subduing Vajra passed through Zhang Yi's legs. He noticed it, and so he looked at it. Then he continued wailing as he was in mid-air falling. Zuo Zai ran towards him, and then she jumped as high as she could. Zhang Yi noticed her in the air. She looked at him and do nothing. All of a sudden both of them were on the ground. Zuo Zai landed properly with the Vajra on her hand, but Zhang Yi did not. He crashed with his head first. Someone spoke out of nowhere. It was a girl floating in the air telling her that she has such a cute helper. Zhang Yi grew wrinkles across his forehead, showing confusion. He questioned himself if the fairies are trying to kill him. Zuo Zai told him that she is not a fairy, and maybe the so-called weak and harmless Baikai summoned her to attack them both there. She then showed her teeth because she thinks that Baikai was afraid of them telling her true identity, so she decided to strike first, to eliminate both of them who might block her way to her plans and schemes. They were a potential threat to her. Zhang Yi glared at her, almost starting to believe what she was saying. Then Zuo Zai ordered him to go and hide somewhere because she felt like she caused all this, so she is going to take care of everything. She tossed the demon-subduing Vajra up in the air, then crossed her pinky finger in front of her face as if she was summoning her strength. The demon-subduing Vajra pointed its sharp end towards the lady by itself. She continued summoning her power from where she was standing. Unthreatened, the lady just sarcastically commended Zuo Zai, and then she decided to play along with her. The wind started to flow stronger again at her will. The demon-subduing Vajra moved quickly towards the lady by itself, or maybe Zuo Zai was actually controlling it. The lady stayed still on the ball of wind she created while the demon-subduing Vajra was about to hit her. Zhang Yi almost cried out of disbelief. A stick that moves by itself, a woman who used the wind to kill. Turns out, he was not that weird after all. All of a sudden, the demon-subduing Vajra swished through the lady. It hit her. Zuo Zai was already satisfied with what she did. The lady commended her, saying that it was not that bad. Then she started to summon wind blades. Zuo Zai immediately formed a seal to defend herself from the attacks. But it was not enough to shield her from the wind blades. The lady hit her arm. Zuo Zai almost fell to the ground after being hit by the wind blade. However, her blood scattered to the ground. Zhang Yi immediately rushed toward her while the blood from her arms was dripping on the floor. He asked her if she is okay. She did not answer him. She just gets her demon-subduing Vajra back into her hand again. The lady smirked, seeing how Zuo Zai reacted to her attack. But Zuo Zai will not surrender just yet. Even if she is fast, even if she is able to fly. She scratched the Vajra on the ground, then she warned her that she will wipe her smirk on that face of her. She summoned her power again. Demon subjugation. Thousand Mountain, she said. It was successful. She managed to make the lady fall to the ground. The lady landed on a dirty pile of cigarettes. A feeling of nausea grew in her. She wanted to get away from there as soon as possible. She said that it was so dirty and she was worried about her new shoes. Zhang Yi wondered what the deal with her was, but Zuo Zai was bothered. She used all her power for that skill, but it only forced her to land. Zhang Yi had an idea, seeing how the lady reacted to the cigarette butts. He thinks the lady is a clean freak. All of a sudden, she sends wind blades to them again. Zuo Zai quickly pushed Zhang Yi to the side to dodge the approaching wind blade. He was not hit, but she was. She willingly took the wind blades just to save Zhang Yi, who must be weaker than her. Zhang Yi witnessed how painful it was for Zuo Zai to receive all those attacks. She fell on the ground, bleeding, while Zhang Yi sat near her with no damage taken. The lady continuously kept the area clean using the winds. Zuo Zai lost consciousness. She lost a grip on her demon-subduing Vajra. The lady asked her how many days she has worked as a spirit exterminator with that level of skill. Her eyes narrowed as she spits the fact. If she is going to stay like that, she will not live long for sure. Zhang Yi tried to catch the attention of the lady. He threw baseballs towards her, which she managed to stop from hitting her so easily using the wind. He kept on throwing and throwing the baseballs at her. He also tried to mock her by telling her to eat those baseballs that he threw. However, the lady was too quick to stop all those that he threw, and with one blow, the lady sent back all the baseballs to him. She hit him successfully. Zhang Yi rolled to the side and then ran somewhere. He remembered that over there is something that might help. The lady was bored. She thinks that it was just like she is playing house with a kid. He ran towards the area where he was talking while the lady continuously fires him with baseballs. It's time. He arrived at the area. The baseballs that she sent over there made an explosion that caused dark smoke to arise. The smoke eventually grew bigger quickly after a few seconds. It was so dark that everything behind it was completely hidden. The lady waited for some time for the smoke to clear before doing anything again. Out of the blue, the lady saw a brown round object approaching towards her. She knew it was thrown by Zhang Yi behind the smoke. As expected, the lady did not feel any threat at all. It would be the same even if he does it for how many times, she said. Out of habit, she blew that thing out, causing the dirt it contained to scatter all over her. He gaped at her jaw as she stared at what she has just done. The dirt sticks all over her skin. She started to wail as loud as she could. She could not stand it, being dirty. Zhang Yi smirked. He knew he had done something big this time. The dirty sandbags are, indeed, perfect for dealing with clean freaks like her. The lady then said that she quit. She does not wish to fight with them anymore. She is now going home to take a shower. A man appeared out of nowhere and smirked, seeing how the lady reacted to the dirt. He then told the lady that she became more stubborn than she used to be. The man took off one of his gloves. Then he told himself to start his business there right away. He saw Zhang Yi help Zuo Zai to stand up and guide her every step. Zuo Zai's pupils suddenly became dilated, making her eyes appear larger than usual. She sensed another four-wheel spiritual entity around. Zhang Yi noticed that she kept on using the term spiritual entity, so then he asked her what exactly were those. Zuo Zai then explained that spiritual entities are life forms different from humans. They don't rely on a physical body. Instead, their sound is their source of life. The man was summoning black water on the ground when Zuo Zai explained that souls contain powerful energy, making the spiritual entities obtain various supernatural abilities. The lady in the air said that he was doing it again, referring to the man summoning the black water below her. Zuo Zai noticed what he was doing. She thinks that he has such a pretty unique ability. She thinks that it was filthy. All of a sudden, they found themselves surrounded by the black water that the man summoned. The man then spoke coldly. He told the two of them to come and face their inner desires, inside of which he referred to as his playground. The water started moving, causing it to produce a sound. Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai immediately became wary of what might come next. They looked at each other to see if anything happened to one another. Suddenly, a mirror-like thing appeared in front of them. When Zuo Zai looked into it, she did not see herself. Instead, she saw her late parents. They approached by making their arms open as if they were ready to embrace their child. Even though it has been long since they were gone, Zuo Zai immediately recognized them, and so she called them. Zuo Zai suddenly felt like she became a child in sour of a moment. She ran towards her mother with too much joy in her eyes. The imaginary parents then told her to be good as they gave her a teddy bear to play with. Little Zuo Zai accepted the teddy bear with no doubt and promised them that she would be a good friend to the teddy bear. However, in reality, the one that she was holding tight was actually Zhang Yi. He could not do anything but go along with her for a moment, even though it felt weird. Finally, he started waking Zuo Zai up. He screamed at her to make her snap out of her hallucinations. A frown on her face quickly flashed, like she saw something she feared the most. In her hallucination, she was still embracing the teddy bear when the man pierced with a spear on his chest appeared in front of her. The man then asked her to run quickly. Zuo Zai was unable to move after that. Fear numbs her body in hallucination and in reality. Zhang Yi tried to wake her up again. He tried to wave her hand in front of her, hoping that she will notice it. Then he shook her body as she wept from tears. Also, the black water started to climb its way up to Zuo Zai's body from her hands. Then suddenly her parents were burnt in the fire and a man walked towards her. All she could do was cry as she stared at the man. She was just a kid back then. The man was wearing a hood, making himself to look more terrifying. Back to reality, the black water held Zuo Zai down. It was coiled on her feet and on her hands across her body. She was struggling. Anger stirred within Zhang Yi as he stared at the struggling Zuo Zai. He yelled at the man. He asked him what he did to Zuo Zai. The man just grinned. It was not him, it was her own fear, he said to Zhang Yi. The bigger the fear, the deeper she will fall. Soon she will become a fertilizer for the black water. Zhang Yi clenched his teeth as he told him that he will have to take him down first in order to save Zuo Zai. The floating lady went lower and then asked the man if he needs her help. The man disagreed since he was just a mere child. It would be an embarrassment if they take him together. The man touched the ground again, the same thing he did earlier. The black water then started to arise from the ground. His feet trembled as the black water towered over him. They came together and make themselves massive before it moved towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi tried to run away, but he was soon reached by the black water. It seems like the massive black water swallowed him whole as if a monster ate its prey. Zhang Yi could not breathe. He tried to keep himself from drowning in the black water. Then suddenly a circling of water appeared and he was carried away by its strength. After a few seconds, the circling completely swallowed him down. All of a sudden, a hand appeared. It was dripping with blood. Then there is a man sitting on top of a pile of corpses. His eyes were red as a beast's, filled with anger. Out of nowhere, an attack hit the man, causing him to be thrown away with his mouth wide open out of shock. He was caught off guard by someone. He wonders who. He came out. It was Zhang Yi. He lifted his arm ready to punch the man in the face. The man could not do anything as he moved so swiftly. Zhang Yi successfully hit him in the face. The blood spurted out from him and he crashed to the ground because of Zhang Yi's powerful strike. The man put his hand on his face and he wondered how was he able to escape the black water. It is impossible. Zhang Yi shrugged as he told him that it did not pose a problem at all. It was nothing. The man doubts it because he also saw the mountain of corpses and the bloodshed. Zhang Yi got angrier as he thinks that the man kept on spitting nonsense. He smacks him again this time. The lady was busy in the inn with her phone. She was talking to her boss about this kid, which is Zhang Yi that he wants them to test. Turns out, her boss was Hu Ji-Yugong. He told her that Zhang Yi's weakness was hand-to-hand combat. They need to have his ass whooped that will do him some good. Hu Ji-Yugong thinks that Zhang Yi really lost his memory since the ghost water sea of emotion and desires is ineffective. He does not know that he was the sole survivor of that mountain disaster. Then he asked if it really have anything to do with that person. He took one step backward but there was nothing to step to anymore. He fell, but he looks just fine. He met a bird on his way down. The bird was so shocked to see him there. A skeleton rushed towards something with its side lifted. Then surprisingly, Zhang Yi struck him with a punch. He wondered how he could still be so arrogant. Later, Zhuo Zai, who lost consciousness earlier, suddenly woke up. From where she lies, she saw that Zhang Yi was beating the hell out of the four-wheel spiritual entity she fought earlier. Weak, the spiritual entity still managed to speak. He told Zhang Yi that Zhuo Zai is already awake. Zhang Yi's eyes flickered to where he left Zhuo Zai. She was sitting on the ground, confused about all that happened and what is happening. Zhang Yi quickly jumped to go down to Zhuo Zai. He stared at her for a moment, checking if she is really okay now. He lifted 2 fingers up and then asked Zhuo Zai how many those are. Zhuo Zai managed to answer correctly while being sarcastic. The floating spiritual entity suddenly spoke. She told her that she is a spirit exterminator who needs an ordinary civilian to save her. That doesn't make any sense. Anger thrummed through her veins. She then bid her to fight with her again. But the lady denied her request because she doesn't to fight with children anymore. A voice barged in on their conversation. He told the lady to stop bullying the little girl now. It was Hu Ji-Yugong. Behind him was the spiritual entity that uses the ghost water, which is now putting his gloves back on. Zhuo Zai's anger spiked again after seeing him. She yelled at him. It is all clear now. He is the one who ordered those spiritual entities to attack them. Hu Ji-Yugong smiled from ear to ear, trying to act cute to ease Zhuo Zai's anger. He tried to explain what really happened. They were not attacking Zhuo Zai, they were actually after Zhang Yi. He then introduced the 2 spiritual entities to them. The lady was named Red Bean and the guy was named Ghostwater. Both of them are senior civil servants in the bureau. Zhuo Zai does not know them since she is just an outsourced contractor. Zhang Yi then realizes that it was his real test. He asked if he did good or what. Zhuo Zai forcefully pulled Zhang Yi towards her by grabbing his clothes. She was in a rage. How dare he send a 4-wheel to fight with an ordinary human for a test? Zhang Yi stared at her as she blasted those words to Hu Ji-Yugong. However, Hu Ji-Yugong just told her to stop being nervous since she also knew that it has not been so peaceful recently. Then he asked Ghostwater about the test. How was it? He said. Ghostwater answered. The candidate has an extremely high perception and adaptability. He did not leave his comrade in crisis and he also has an impressive willpower and teamwork skills. Finally, he told Hu Ji-Yugong that recruitment is recommended. Hu Ji-Yugong's eyes flickered towards Zhang Yi then smiled. However, Ghostwater was struggling. He does not know how to tell him about how frightened he was by the kid's subconscious mind. He just told Hu Ji-Yugong that the kid most likely lost all his past memories. That's why the sea of emotion and desires could not create an illusion. Zhuo Zai then mocked Zhang Yi by telling him that that only means that his brain is completely blank. Hu Ji-Yugong told them about the disaster that occurred at Mount Cranesong in which Zhang Yi was the only one who survived. Ghostwater now realized the meaning of what he saw in Zhang Yi's subconscious mind, a mountain of corpses. Hu Ji-Yugong tossed something to Zhang Yi. He caught it. It was his temporary identification card. From now on, he is an outsourced contractor of the spirit extermination team just like Zhuo Zai. He felt proud of himself. His granda would also be proud of him if he knew about what he achieved today for him. Hu Ji-Yugong also told him that there will be a non-disclosure agreement that he has to sign later. Then Zhang Yi asked about what exactly is his job. Hu Ji-Yugong answered coldly. He told him that his job was the same as what he did today. Defeat spiritual entities that cause harm to society by all means. Zhang Yi's mouth was wide open. He did not expect that his job will be exterminating crazy powerful entities. It seems impossible, he said. Hu Ji-Yugong just smiled while saying that the world is more complicated than you think. That is why they needed all kinds of talents for their team. Zhang Yi was stoned due to the fact that he might not live long enough to extend his grandpa's life. Red Bean suddenly went down and embraced Zhang Yi. She told them to stop scaring him. She purposely squeezed him tightly to make Zhang Yi feel her chest from behind. Zhang Yi blushed, embarrassed of what she is doing. He told her that he already can feel the full extent of her encouragement. Hu Ji-Yugong asked her to keep her hands off him since he is still underage. Then he assigned Zhuo Zai to be Zhang Yi's partner since they both go to the same school. Zhang Yi asked Zhuo Zai to take care of him. But Zhuo Zai revealed to all of them that he has a 6-wheel spiritual entity friend that goes to their school. Everyone was shocked by that sudden information. Surprisingly, Hu Ji-Yugong knew about her. He knew Bai Kai whom Zhang Yi brought home a year ago. Zhuo Zai could not believe that Huo Jiugong might let it slide. But since Zhang Yi has joined their team now, it is time to make a decision. Zhang Yi was helping Bai Kai to eat. He smiled at her as he asked if he is better than their grandpa. Bai Kai chews her food while thinking of the answer. Then she coldly answered him that Granda is better. He then told her that he has found a way to extend Grandpa's life. He will be home soon. Bai Kai asked him if he joined the spiritual extermination team. Zhang Yi trembles even though he already expected her to know about it. Still, it is supposed to be a secret. She then told him that being their member is extremely dangerous. The fatality rate is high. Zhang Yi just laughed over it and then told her to now worry about him. Even if he looks weak, he still managed to ace their test, he told her. Bai Kai does not seem to care. She continued on eating her food. All of a sudden, she admitted to him that she was the one controlling Zhuo Zai back then. She is going to say that she is a spiritual entity, but Zhang Yi interrupted her by telling her first that she was his family. His most important family. He stared at her with a sincerity in his eyes. Bai Kai was moved. She also stared at Zhang Yi while she felt the weight of the word family. Then they continued eating. Bai Kai grinned as she ate after Zhang Yi told a joke. Outside, there was someone or something sitting on a light post. It has a body like a human but also has sharp claws. His gaze was just as sharp as those claws. Bai Kai closed the curtains to block coming outside from entering their room. The entity sitting on the post suddenly disappeared after she closed the curtains. Bai Kai continued to close all other curtains. Then she thought about Zhang Yi's wound today that would not heal as fast as others did. They are just the same, she said. She looked at Zhang Yi and told herself that he was just a sheep. She placed her hand on his face and then continued talking to herself. A sheep rushing to the wolf's den. She leaned her body towards Zhang Yi, telling him that he could do whatever he likes, it is fine. She will be there to protect him no matter the cost. Then she noticed Zhang Yi's wound on the chest. Worriedly, she looked at it. She then put her hand near the wound. Then suddenly, she felt a powerful force from him. The force seems to be going to the wound on his chest as if it is absorbing the energy from her. The sun rises. Zhang Yi woke feeling a heavy weight on his chest. Then he discovered that it was Bai Kai. She slept on top of him with her hand placed on top of his chest. He looked at his chest and discovered that his wound was gone. He wondered what is going on in the first place. Why is Bai Kai here? He then started to overthink. He does not even know what to feel. All of a sudden, he heard a knock from outside. It was Zhuo Zai. She asked him if he is home. Bai Kai woke up because of that noise. She asked who was it, but Zhang Yi did not tell her. Zhuo Zai impatiently waited outside for him to answer or go out. Then after a few seconds, Zhang Yi opened the door and asked her what was she doing there. Zhuo Zai noticed right away that his clothes were unbuttoned. She told him that she was there to bring him to the team, but he looks really suspicious right now. She teased him what did he do that made his clothes look like that. Zhang Yi asked for some time to change his clothes, but Zhuo Zai wanted to get in right at that moment. She slammed the door to stop him from closing it. Zhuo Zai said that she just wanted to apologize to him seriously this time. Zhang Yi was clueless. She once tried to apologize and that did not end up well. He then tried to close the door, but Zhuo Zai pushed it. She really wanted to enter his room. They stopped pushing and pulling the door when it cracked and eventually broke. Zhang Yi just accepted the fact that he has to fix it now. Another problem. Out of the blue, Bai Kai fell on the bed. She was frightened because her spiritual power is gone. Zhang Yi quickly rushed towards Bai Kai to check if she was okay. Zhuo Xi narrowed her eyes thinking that Bai Qin was just pretending to be unable to walk. He told Zhang Yi to go get change and she will take care of Bai Kai. Bai Kai and Zhang Yi both stared at Zhuo Zai after saying that. Then she explained that Huo Jiugong already said that she is not a problem, so she will not do anything to her. They put Bai Kai in her wheelchair and she asked Zhuo Zai to take her to her room next door. Then Zhuo Zai realized something. She realized that the two of them slept together last night. Zhang Yi trembles. He asked Zhuo Zai to stop imagining things. It is a misunderstanding. Bai Kai calmly answered that they did not. The sun was about to set late afternoon, painting the sky with its fiery orange streak of light. A student was rushing to go upstairs as if he was running from someone. He was breathless. He seemed scared for his life. Then he stopped running for a second to breathe. He then thought about the thing he saw that does not look like a human at all. It turns out that the thing that he saw actually tailed him. He turned his back as soon as he felt that it was there. The next day, Zhang Yi was pinned to a brick wall by someone. Then something was fired at him, though he was not hit. It hit the brick wall near his face, making the area to be broken. Turns out, Zhuo Zai was the one who pinned him there, threatening him about being under the 5th surveillance squad. Zhuo Zai then talked about Bai Kai. She told him that it is very dangerous for him to keep a 6-wheel spiritual entity in his care. She warned him to be extra careful when dealing with people like her that possesses great power. Earlier, Zhuo Zai helped Bai Kai to get to her room in her wheelchair. Zhuo Xi took that moment to ask her about her real motives by staying by Zhang Yi's side. She warned her that she should not catch her doing anything suspicious or else she would end her even if it costs her life. Bai Kai turned to face Zhuo Zai and then asked her if she can really end her. Zhuo Zai fumes with anger as she realized that Bai Kai was looking down on her. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, does not seem to care much. Zhuo Zai noticed that Zhang Yi was thinking of something else instead of listening to her, so she pinched him hard on his face. He then told her that she is his mission, so he will take care of her himself. Then they continued walking their way to the place where they should report for duty. Little did he know that they were already there, that is the place. Zhang Yi doubted, but Zhuo Zai insisted he just follow her lead. Zhang Yi observed that the place was too plain as Zhuo Zai opened the door for entry. They took the stairs to go down. Zhuo Zai was walking first and Zhang Yi followed her way. Zhang Yi keeps on looking around and noticed again that the inside was also as plain as the outside. Zhuo Zai started calling the captain as she climbs up on another stair. Since she was wearing a very short skirt, Zhang Yi caught sight of her butt area, which caused his face to turn red. He quickly flickered his eyes away from her and noticed that there might be no one in there. All of a sudden, something ran and passed through between Zhang Yi's legs. It was a cat. It jumped up towards Zhuo Zai. What are the odds? It landed exactly on her chest. Zhang Yi then commended the cat for knowing where to hold on tight. Then Zhuo Zai told him that the cat was actually the captain of the 5th Surveillance Squad. She asked the cat to introduce himself to Zhang Yi. However, it looks like nothing more than just a cat for Zhang Yi. He thought that Zhuo Zai was just fooling around. All of a sudden, the cat spoke, asking him what is wrong with having a cat as captain. Zhang Yi fell down the stairs out of surprise and fear. He called the cat a demon. Zhuo Zai let go of the talking cat. He told Zhang Yi his name, Rakshasa, and that he is his direct superior. He also told him that his timing is good because he will receive his first mission right away. Apparently, there have been suspicious deaths that occurred around Tangying High School. Last night at school, someone was sitting in the middle of the hallway. The guard asked him what was he doing there late at night. He turned his flashlight towards the person. Very quickly, the person or the entity brutally attacked the guard, making his blood to scatter around the hallway. The security guard screamed so loudly and it echoed around the school that brought terror to the night. Zhang Yi listened carefully to the cat. He said that the last attack, the third one, happened yesterday near the school laboratory. Zhang Yi was glad to receive his first mission. He was eager to solve this case as fast as possible for his grandpa. The captain showed them gruesome pictures of the last victim. He was a third-year student named Yan Ruyu. Zhang Yi swallowed. He recognized him. His name is Hades, the guy who took advantage of Bai Kai and stabbed him. His body looks like it has been torn apart by a wild beast, but Zhuo Zai seems unbothered since she had seen much worse than that. Zhang Yi asked her how was she able to handle this thing. Zhuo Zai answered him that it happens very often. Spiritual entities have no regard for human life. This one in this case is surely a naive beginner for leaving a show like that. The cat spoke its opinion over this case. It looks like the enemy might be more complicated than it seems, he said. He told them that he mobilized all the stray cats in the East 8 district, but they found nothing. Zhuo Zai added that her compass could not detect him either. The enemy is skilled in hiding itself. Zhuo Zai looked frightened since she does not know what to do to catch the culprit in this case. The cat continued stitching the facts together. He told them that all 3 victims were connected to a guy named Bao Hui. The 4 of them are friends. Most likely, he might be the next victim. Then he advised them to find this man and the murderer will most likely be nearby. The cat waited for questions from Zhuo Zai and rookie Zhang Yi, but they have none. The cat then asked Zhang Yi to follow him and get his equipment. It turns out, they have special equipment there. Zhuo Zai explained to him that injuries caused by normal weapons to spiritual entities will just heal quickly. That is why they have to use special weapons. Zhuo Zai takes out her Vajra as an example. A very powerful weapon against spiritual entities. Zhang Yi swallowed. He remembered that the wound caused by the Vajra did not heal as quickly as his other wounds. Zhuo Zai turned her back and asked him what is wrong. He told her nothing of his worry and just walked. The cat placed his paw on top of a screen that looks like a security lock that requires biometrics to unlock. Zhang Yi could not seem to believe how a cat was able to unlock a door using his paw. The door opened and he was surprised to see the inside. He was amused by how it looked. He said that it was just like what he saw in movies. Zhuo Xi then explained the equipment to him one by one. First, the compass, which can be used to search and locate spiritual entities. An amulet handgun that has been modified to fire custom-made ammo. Even the most common ammo can deal massive damage to them. Next, the Thunderbolt wood. It is a special material that has a lightning essence. It can paralyze and deal damage to spiritual entities. The Cinnabar sword. It can cut through metal easily. An expert can even summon a fire dragon using this profound weapon. Then Zhuo Zai gave the rookie a red rope with a golden handle. It is a spirit-binding rope, she said. Subsequently, the cat gave him the spirit-binding notebook that he can use to learn how to unleash the full power of the rope. Zhang Yi was grateful to the cat for giving him a manual for his weapon. He stared at the notebook and realized that it looked like a secret martial arts manuscript. He was amazed by it. He opened it and saw an image of a hand. It was tightly tied using the red rope he has. This is what he is supposed to do for a one-wheel spiritual entity. For two-wheel entities, the rope is tied across the body. The spiritual wheels are on the shoulder and the arms. He blushed because the images seem like referring to something else rather than spiritual entities. He turned the page once again and saw what he is supposed to do for a three-wheel spiritual entity. He immediately closed the book because he can help but to think about the other thing that those pictures resemble. Zhuo Zai opened the book herself to check what is wrong. She found nothing at all made sense to her. Zhang Yi doubts it. The cat insisted that he gave him the right book. But Zhang Yi could not agree to the indecent cat he called since his nose is bleeding now. While he is still in fury, Zhuo Zai dragged him out for them to start their mission. He wanted to change his weapon but they did not let him. Zhang Yi and Zhuo Zai went together to the place Rakshasa told them where Bao Hui might be. Zhang Yi does not want to mess up his first mission, so he kept on looking to his left side and then the right side. Zhuo Zai told him that he doesn't have to do anything this time, he can just watch and learn. Zhang Yi at her with blank eyes. He did not hear what she said. Zhuo Zai fumes with anger again for him who has been preoccupied. A man crashed on the ground. He seems to be in a fight with another man. The man with pumping muscles asked him to get up at once. He wanted to fight more. Turns out, it was not just one man he was fighting with. There were lots of them, and most of them were already knocked out. But the man was not yet satisfied. He urged the men to stand up and keep the fight going. He pointed his finger towards the three guys, each holding weapons. He then ordered them to come at him together at once. He gestured with his finger for them to come. The three guys looked at each other and think for some time. They then decided to go along with him. They lifted their weapons and came to the man together. The man defended himself from their attack. His movements were swift and very quick as if no one will notice. In a spur of a moment, he smacked one guy in the face, totally unaware of his attack. The other guys attempted to attack him but they did not hit him. He quickly dodges them. The guy eventually fell and crashed his back on the ground, screaming in agony and pain. Other guys whispered. They said that it was not training anymore. He may eventually murder us by the end of the day. They said that he was acting like that as if the world turned its back on him because Hades has died too. From a distance, Zhuo Zai watched them fight. The guy must be Bao Hui, she thought. She noticed his physique that according to her is comparable to a two-wheel. She finds it already amazing. Zhang Yi asked him if she thinks she can defeat Bao Hui with an innocent tone, making Zhuo Zai to feel underestimated. The guy tried to hit Bao Hui with his weapon again, and unexpectedly, he was able to dodge it again. Then he grabs the man and lifted it from where he was standing. Swiftly, he threw the guy away like a garbage bag thrown in a dump site. The other guys were frightened, so they flee very carefully. They do not want to catch his attention in a moment like this. Zhuo Zai lifted her foot and put it in front of her as if to stop something. Her foot met the man Bao Hui threw. She then gently lowered her foot back to the ground. The man landed safely though was still frightened and seemed traumatized by what has just happened. Bao Hui's pupils moved to the side of his eyes to see the strange faces in their place. Zhuo Zai introduced her name to him and also his name as if to confirm if he really is Bao Hui. Bao Hui did not answer her. Instead, he arrogantly commended her presence there. Zhang Yi ended his silence. He told him that they have some questions to ask him. He then asked him politely to cooperate. The beaten men recognized his face. It is Zhang Yi, they said in surprise. Bao Hui told them that he was not in the mood to answer any question but he will take the girl for sure. He moved his hand forward with the purpose of seizing Zhuo Zai for him. But Zhang Yi was quick. He immediately grabbed his face before he even touched her. His long finger covered his whole face. He then pounded Bao Hui to the ground. The men witnessed what happened and they were now more frightened of Zhang Yi than their brother Hui. Zhang Yi asked him if he feels better now. Bao Hui told him that he is still arrogant and in return, Zhang Yi told him that he is still weak as ever. Zhuo Zai was surprised after witnessing how strong Zhang Yi was. She had no idea that Zhang Yi has a reputation at school. Zhang Yi then waved at her telling her that it is time to work. Zhuo Zai suddenly wondered why didn't he fight with her the day they met and so she asked him. Zhang Yi answered her that it was because he was wearing nothing but a towel back then. He did not want to take advantage of her. They put 2 cold beers on the table before they started interrogating Bao Hui. Bao Hui immediately took one and opened it while leaning back in his chair and feet placed on the table. Zhuo Zai then took the pictures of the victims out and showed them to him. She asked him if he know those people. Bao Hui answered her without a doubt. They are his best friends, he told her with a very serious face. Zhuo Xi asked another question and Hui answered. Yes, they did a lot of horrible things, he told her. Zhuo Zai proceeded to ask if he has an idea about who might be the suspect in this case. Arrogantly, he answered her by asking her back that does she really think he would still be there if he knew who. Zhang Yi warned him to stop playing so brave because the culprit might not be a human, it might be something else. He then took out a picture again. He told him that it was the reason why he believed that the culprit might not be a human. He passed the picture to Bao Hui who was asking him why was he so interested in this serial killing case. Even the very manly Bao Hui felt weak after seeing what was in the picture. He could not believe the gruesomeness of it. Zhang Yi then asked him right away if he recalled anything. Circles of sweat started to emerge on his face. He was nervous. All of a sudden, everything is black. Someone has turned off the light. Zhuo Zai and Zhang Yi were confused. They wondered why the light go out. Bao Hui then yelled to the guys inside. He ordered them to go and turn the lights back on at once. Then sharp lingering eyes appeared in the dark. It is as yellow as a demon's. Zhang Yi became warier in his surroundings given the circumstances. On the other hand, Zuo Zai immediately brought out her Vajra because she felt that something is there with them. Bao Hui yelled again to the guys have not moved a single footstep to check the fuse box if there is a problem. A guy finally answered him. He went to the fuse box using his phone's flashlight to see in the dark. But as he walked his path towards it, something attacked him. It struck him hard, leaving him bleeding. The other guy noticed him fall and he immediately go to him to check what is wrong. He was surprised as soon as he turned his flashlight around and saw what was in the dark. There was a strange creature. It has a form like a human, eyes like a demon, and claws like a monster. In just a few seconds, it managed to strike all the other guys that stood there in the dark. The three of them noticed that something was happening to those guys. The creature then spoke. He then told Bao Hui that he will now announce his crimes, showing its sharp teeth. One by one he told him, bullying the weak, causing bodily harm, and committing grave sins. He was eager to give Bao Hui the cruelest punishments. He wanted the hammer of judgment to fall upon him for his crimes. After accusing Bao Hui, a loud bang echoes in the room. Then the lights on top of where the three of them suddenly turned on. The creature wanted Bao Hui to repent. Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai were both confused as curious kittens. Zhang Yi asked her if this might be a murder announcement. Bao Hui's narrow eyes flickered at them. He seems frightened. He was sweating. Zuo Zai looked into a photo and saw that all his crimes were listed there. She then thought that maybe he really deserves to die for committing such things. Bao Hui stared at her with disapproval and anger. Then he put his hand on top of his head. It was him, he remembered. It was him whom he saw in the photo Zuo Zai showed him. Written in the photo is a death sentence for him covered with thick red blood. Bao Hui thinks that the guy has become a vengeful ghost killing his brothers one by one. Though he doubted his idea. Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai looked at each other as if they realized something just then. Zhang Yi told her that the spiritual entity is doing good deeds. He wondered if they still have to exterminate it. Zuo Zai warned him not to be fooled. It has already killed 3 people, there is no excuse for that. Zhang Yi thinks and considered Zuo Zai's opinion on the matter. Back at their house earlier, Bai Kai asked if he will not be back tonight. Zhang Yi nodded, telling her yes. He also told her that he will stay at Bao Hui's place with Zuo Zai tonight. Bai Kai suddenly noticed a strange thing hidden on his back. She quickly grabbed it without even asking Zhang Yi first. Bai Kai got a hold of the rope given to him as his weapon against the spiritual entities. Zhang Yi stutters as he tried to tell her that the rope is nothing. He does not even know how to use it. Bai Kai stared at it for a moment and thinks deeply as if she doubts what Zhang Yi said. Zhang Yi insisted that he truly does not know how to use it. He even wondered how anyone would fight using a thing like that. She gave it back to him and asked him to tie her up. He must learn how to use it, she told him. Zhang Yi's face immediately turned red, hesitating to agree with Bai Kai's idea, but then soon agreed to do it. Bai Kai put her hand together on her back and he tied it together using the rope. While Zhang Yi is trying his best to tie her up correctly, Bai Kai made a sound that made Zhang Yi to blush even more. Zhang Yi is done tying Bai Kai up and now is laying on the bed. He thought that what he did was just right, seeing how helpless Bai Kai is. However, Bai Kai turned her face to face him and asked him to make it tighter, for it would be better. Zhang Yi immediately pulled the loose end of the rope while gripping Bai Kai's hands to make it tighter. While he was doing that, Bai Kai let another strange sound out of pain. Zhang Yi then ordered her to stop making strange noises. His face is red and he felt awkward to her. Bai Kai groaned several times as she told him that her arms are already restricted by the way he tied them. She then urged Zhang Yi to keep going. She asked him to turn her over and he followed. Bai Kai is now laying on her back while her hands are still tied up at her back. She then asked Zhang Yi to come near her and continue what he was doing. He felt like he is burning now. Despite the awkwardness, he still tied the rope around her body the way he was supposed to do. Bai Kai is hurt. She kept on groaning while being tied up by Zhang Yi. She then asked him to be gentler this time. That only made Zhang Yi feel more feverish. As they continued, Bai Kai's breathing subsequently became heavier and heavier. She pressed her face onto the pillow and started to wail very gently out of pain. Then suddenly, circles on her head started to glow one by one. There is also one on her chest and on her wrist. She then commended him for doing his job good. She called Zhang Yi and called him again, but he did not answer. It turns out, he was lying on the ground. Bai Kai was worried about him. She turned her face to look at him. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi also started to groan. Bai Kai wanted to go to him, so she then started to wriggle her body, hoping to eventually fall out of the bed. It was a successful move. She turned over to her side to face Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was still groaning. This time, he put his hand on his create that has a wound. Bai Kai put her face on top of his face to feel his temperature. He was so hot, she noticed. She wondered if he was having a fever. Then he spoke. He wanted to tell her that there is something wrong with his chest. He screamed. He felt like his chest is about to split open. He wanted to free himself from what he was feeling now. And then in one bang, it was all gone. He sighed out of relief. He felt better now. All of a sudden, he seemed satisfied. His mouth is wide open and his eyes are narrowed. Bai Kai was confused about what happened to him. She thinks for a moment and then she blushed. She then wakes him up to untie her. The crescent moon appeared in the sky as the night falls. Zhang Yi was carrying a huge bag on his back while complaining about why does he have to work when it is so late. He encountered the downward stare again as he enters the room where the captain is in. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Zuo Zai and the captain doing some drills. Zuo Zai was attacking the cap. She throws quick punches at the cat several times in minutes. Despite her speed, the cat still managed to dodge her punches. Jumping from one place to another, the cat jumped from the back of her hand. It rolled into the air. Zuo Zai then put both of her hands to her face as her defense. The cat struck her using its tail, but Zuo Zai successfully defended herself. The attack was so strong that the ground beneath Zuo Zai's feet cracked. The cat then rolled back, then landed on a chair. Zuo Zai then sighed a breath of relief. The cat commended her since she managed to take an attack from the captain as expected of her. Zhang Yi on the other hand looked frightened. He was shaking as he watches the two of them. He wondered if he can still call that a cat seeing how it fought. All of a sudden, Zuo Zai kicked Zhang Yi. Luckily, he was able to dodge it. Zhang Yi asked her why did she do that. She said that it was collateral damage. She was not wearing a towel now, so he cannot make any excuse anymore. She was ready to attack Zhang Yi again. Zhang Yi was so confused and shocked. Despite the shock, Zhang Yi backflipped away from Zuo Zai, landing just a few steps from her. He lifted his arms, but he was still quite not ready to fight. Zuo Zai strikes him. He dodges. Zuo Zai gripped her hand tightly and threw another punch. Zhang Yi caught her hand to stop her. He then asked her to stop the fight since they were both tired. Zuo Zai struggled to pull her arm free from his grip. He really has a great physical strength. Suddenly, she thought of a move that might work for him. Very swiftly, she kicked him in the face, making him involuntarily release her arm. As soon as she was free, she immediately gripped Zhang Yi's fingers with both her hands. Then she turned him over using the feet she lifted. Zhang Yi crashed on his back with Zuo Zai's feet ran to his chest while gripping his hand. He was having a hard time breathing because Zuo Zai was actually locking him up instead of fighting. She then asked him if he already accepted his defeat against her. The captain then begged her to be more considerate of the rookie as it sat on Zhang Yi's face. Zuo Zai's face suddenly became brighter after hearing the captain. They can now start the case analysis since everyone is there. Zhang Yi wanted to say something but he cannot because he is now completely helpless. With the help of the information provided by Bao Hui, they now have identified the primary suspect, a man called Gu Hai. 2 years ago, they were all first-year students at Tangying High. Due to some minor conflicts between them, the four of them started to bully Gu Hai. And since Tangying is a kind of chaotic school, nothing was done about the bullying case. Until one day, Gu Hai disappeared. Actually, he killed himself and left a suicide note which was soon found by her sister named Gu Dong. The suicide note was filled with resentment. He accused the bullies of what he had done. The cat then asked Zhang Yi to compare what was written on the note and the way the suspect did his crimes. Zhang Yi trembles as he realized that it was exactly done the way it was written on the suicide note. Aside from Gu Hai, his sister also saw the content of the note which made her the second suspect. She even had an encounter with the four before. The cat drew the scene. Gu Dong brought the suicide note to the gang of four and confronted them. As expected, the four did not take her and the note seriously. They then bullied and insulted her. Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai were impressed with the cat's drawing skills. Considering the relationship between Gu Hai and Gu Dong, it is more likely that the spiritual is cooperating with her. Zhang Yi tried to recall what he knows about Gu Dong, but all he knew was her beauty and her 3 measurements are 85, 60, 86. The cat grinned after hearing her measurement. Suddenly he feels like he wanted to meet her now. Zuo Zai yelled at them because the information they are discussing are not useful in the case. The captain then made it clear to Zhang Yi that they must protect Bao Hui before catching the culprit. Zhang Yi asked the person next to him if he was already asleep in an awkward tone. Bao Hui frowned. How can he fall asleep when there is a dude sleeping beside him? He replied. Zhang Yi told him to just hug his waifu, which is a pillow with a girl's face. Zhang Yi continued telling him nonsense things like the posters of hot girls all around his room. Bao Hui stopped him. He told him that he remembered something. There was actually another person that day. Mr. Nice Guy happened to pass while walking his dog and tried to play the hero, so he got beaten by them. Mr. Nice Guy was their nickname for their student council president, Zhang Yi. He was weak, but that day, he commanded his dog to bite the 4 of them. However, Gu Dong did not show gratitude to him. She just walked out immediately and leave him there. Zhang Yi let himself process the story in his mind before jumping to conclusions. One bright morning at Tangying High, Zhang Yi and Bao Hui were ready to start their day together with a common goal. The student immediately noticed that the known troublemakers are together. There must be something big, they thought. The 2 guys suddenly made a pose as they chanted the miserable death he is going to experience. There were 3 girls in maid costume dancing. The 3 of them seemed to enjoy the choreography they were performing. They looked so cute as they danced. On the other hand, Zuo Zai was surprised. She wondered what kind of dance it was. Bao Hui excitedly answered that it was an otaku dance. And he was enjoying it. Zuo Zai then told them her plan as she put her hand on Zhang Yi's back. She will throw Zhang Yi inside and then shut the door. Zhang Yi frowned. He used to be the school bully, but now he was the one getting bullied often. He entered the dance studio the way Zuo Zai wanted him to, startling the girls in fear. The girls immediately compressed themselves to one another, thinking that Zhang Yi might do something bad to them. Sad and scared, Gudong looked at him as if she was begging him to spare her life. Then Zhang Yi told her that she must come to the rooftop after school. He turned around and looked back to warn her that if he did not see her there will be consequences. Suddenly the girls were sitting on the floor, their knees weakened as Zhang Yi was talking to Gudong like that. Out of the blue, the principal sneezed as he read a document. He then thought that Zhang Yi might be doing something bad again. Gudong was walking up the stairs to the rooftop that afternoon. She was scared, but she was trying to hide it. She told herself that if Zhang Yi confessed to her, she just has to reject him politely so he would not rage. Then finally, she opened the door. She walks slowly as she tries to hide her fear. She turned her head from side to side, but she did not see him. All of a sudden, someone put his hand on her shoulder. She trembled in fear. Her body shivered as soon as she felt his hand. She then assumed that he might force her or something. So, she immediately turns around and threw several punches at him. But it was not Zhang Yi, it was actually Bao Hui. Gudong immediately gets a hold of herself when Bao Hui yelled at her. Then she became more frightened since he was there instead of Zhang Yi. She made a few steps backward, then asked him what was he going to do this time. She was shivering in fear. She did not even notice that Zhang Yi was behind her. She bumped into him as she continued walking backward. Strange as it may sound, but she was happy that Zhang Yi was there. He then told her to not be afraid as he was just going to apologize to her. Gudong's eyes widened with confusion. Bao Hui stood straight in front of her as he gathered his confidence. Then he bowed at her while saying sorry for what he has done and what it caused her. He took the blame for her brother's disappearance and he apologized. Gudong stared at him while he lowered himself to her. Then she yelled, "Her brother is already dead. Apologizing would not do anything good." Bao Hui yelled back that he was just apologizing for his appearance and not for his death. He continued telling her about the death of his friends that were exactly done as written on her brother's suicide note. Gudong let the information sink in first. She then thinks that there is the possibility that her brother was behind these killings, and Zhang Yi agreed to it. She tried to remember if anything strange happened to her recently. Then she remembers that one night, she felt like something is lurking near her. Back then, she thought that it was just a cat or a stray cat. She also remembered the shadow she saw. Zhang Yi stared at her while she was thinking. Her face is blank. Does this mean that she was clueless? He thought. All of a sudden, someone shouted. He asked what were they doing. It was Mr. Nice Guy, the student council president. Bao Hui told him that he seems to be present in every place. He yelled again. He made it clear to them that he is the student council president and that he will not let them bully her. Bao Hui suddenly noticed that wherever Gudong is, he is also there. Was he following her? He asked him. He did not answer. He just told Gudong to stay away from them since they are both dangerous. However, Gudong disagreed with him. She told him that they were not really bullying her. Zhang Yi told her that it was time to go home. Then he asked her if she will go with him. Gudong agreed. Then he ran towards Zhang Yi, leaving Mr. Nice Guy again. She did not even look at Zhang Yi as she walked past him. Bao Hui looked at him and noticed how sad he was. Gudong was about to exit through the door when Zhang Yi turned around. She really just left him there after what he did. Zhang Yi offered ice cream to Gudong on their way. Gudong then accepted it and thanked him for his effort. He then told her that he will walk her home. Gudong looked down and then she smiled. It was already late afternoon. The sky is filled with orange clouds. Zhang Yi carried Gudong on his back. She told him how close she was to her brother. She told him that her brother would always protect her and took care of her. A few minutes later, Gudong fell asleep. Zhang Yi decided not to disturb her, knowing that it was a tiring day for her. She also had told him that she thought her brother would always be that bright and gentle. She was happy back then with her brother. However, things started to change after he got to high school. Her brother changed. He was not the brother she knew anymore. He does not talk to her anymore whenever he gets home. He has always been so lethargic since then. He does not even smile anymore. One day she went to his room and saw her brother's body. It was full of scars and bruises. Her eyes widened when she found out what her brother has been hiding behind those clothes. Her brother would have always stayed inside his room. She felt like he was getting further and further away from her as days went by. Until one day, he disappeared completely without a single warning. But when she found his suicide note, she finally understood why he became like that. All those times, he was being bullied. She wanted justice for his brother. So she applied to Tang Ying Hai just to find the people who had driven him into desperation. He asked her if she then concluded that Bai Hui and his gang were the ones who bullied him. Gudong agreed. However, she was too weak. She could not seek justice for her brother. Bao Hui and his gang showed no remorse. They even tore the suicide note into pieces. Then they all burst into laughter, thinking of how pathetic she was seeking justice for her brother. Zhang Yi proceeded to ask her if anything unusual happened that time or after. Gudong looked at him with confusion and then she told her that she does not think so. Zhang Yi asked her again how did she escape that time. She told him that Zhang Yi was there with his dog. He saved her from them, which caused him to get into a fight with Bai Hui and his gang. After she escaped, she immediately looked for help but no one dared to go. They were all afraid of Bao Hui's gang. Finally, she managed to make some teachers go and check the commission back there. But no one was there when they arrived. They were all gone. After that incident, Zhang Yi was absent from school for a week. She wanted to apologize to him but she always lost her courage. Zhang Yi comforted her by saying that Zhang Yi would not blame her for that. Then he told her that he can apologize to him for her if she could not. Gudong smiled all over her ears after hearing Zhang Yi's idea. Then Zhang Yi continued bringing up the topic of anything unusual she might have experienced. Then she remembered something. Lately, there has always been the presence of a dark shadow that seems watching her. Zhang Yi's eyes were locked onto her as she tells what she noticed. Then he shook her and told her that if she happens to see this shadow again, she has to call him immediately. He then assured her that she will always be safe, he will protect her so there is no need to be scared. Gudong stared at him while his hands are still on her shoulders. Then she looked down when she suddenly felt uneasy. Zhang Yi promised her that he will keep a close eye on her and Bao Hui. He will definitely catch that spiritual entity, he told himself. As soon as he finished preparing the food, he told Bai Kai that he will now go back to Bao Hui's place. Bai Kai frowned. She told him that he has been staying there for a week now. Zhang Yi just smiled and told her that he did not expect that Ninja Turtle to be so patient. Bai Kai asked if Zuo Zai could not take over for him. Zhang Yi disagreed because she is a girl and she has been disappearing a lot lately. He thinks that she could not accept life in a big mission behind his back. Bai Kai agreed with him. All of a sudden, Bai Kai felt something. She then told him that the puppets are on the move. Zhang Yi asked her what puppets was she referring to. She explained that they were cats controlled by his captain to flock together whenever an unknown spiritual entity appears. Zhang Yi wondered why they never came to our house if that was the case. Bai Kai told him that they did not dare to get too close. The one outside right that moment is probably a two-wheel spiritual entity only. Zhang Yi's became brighter. He plans to go out hoping that he might intercept it. He rushed outside right away to find the cats. All he has to do is to follow them and soon he will end up in front of that spiritual entity. The cat suddenly stopped and so was he. The spiritual entity must be there since they all gathered in that place. Zhang Yi then noticed that there was something inside. Someone spoke, and he recognized Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi trembled in fear when the spiritual entity called his name. He then dared it to stop hiding and just come out. The spiritual entity told him that he thought he will have to deal with Gudong first but Zhang Yi himself actually came to him first. Then it came out of the dark while telling him that he will just start with him. Zhang Yi was surprised that it was him since he thought that he was already dead. The spiritual entity also thought that he was already dead too but he was reborn anew. He was reborn in a more advanced life form than a human, a spiritual entity. Zhang Yi swallowed. He does not have an idea that someone might be reborn as a spiritual entity. The spiritual entity continued. He told Zhang Yi that he will spill a secret since they were acquaintances. He said that humans do not really die for real. Death is just a new beginning. They can come back and become a higher level life form. Zhang Yi does not have an idea that it was possible after death. Hades then told him that such a thing will not happen to him because he is going to tear him into shreds. Then he turned into something and rushed towards Zhang Yi. All the cats ran away quickly out of fear. Hades crashed just a small distance from Zhang Yi. The crash made a hole in the floor. Zhang Yi looked at him and tried to understand his ability. All of a sudden, two brown snakes came out on the sides of his neck. The snakes immediately attacked Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi got bitten by them but he can endure the pain. He now understands. His special ability is actually beast morphing. Hades teased Zhang Yi about being scared since he thinks that he was getting weak in the knees because of what he can do. He vexed him back saying that he chose to be an animal when he could have been a human instead. So today, he will be going to be a beast tamer. Then he took out his rope. He immediately throws the other end of the rope towards Hades and successfully, it wrapped around his neck, strangling him. Then Zhang Yi pulled the rope back to him together with Hades. Hades crashed on his face then Zhang Yi stepped on his back while he was on the floor. He told Hades that he has fought with a four-wheel spiritual entity before. He then questioned him who was the one who killed him before. Hades answered that he does not know. Zhang Yi got angry so he tightened the rope more. He could not believe that he does know who killed him. Hades struggled but he still manages to tell him that the killer was wearing a costume and a mask. He planned on striking Zhang Yi even though his powers were suppressed by the rope. Then he transformed his neck longer as if it became another being. Zhang Yi's eyes flicked to the thing when he heard a hiss from it. Hades actually turned into a snake and he is about to bite Zhang Yi now. He had bitten Zhang Yi successfully. Zhang Yi screamed in agony and then his visions eventually became blurry. He lost a hold of his rope and he crashed on the floor. Hades admitted that Zhang Yi is quite strong. But no matter how strong he is still just a mere human. He does not have a chance against a spiritual entity, he said. Zhang Yi seems unconscious on the ground. Hades continued bragging about the perks of being a spiritual entity such as being able to heal quicker. Spiritual entities are, indeed, existences that completely surpass humans on all aspects. He told Zhang Yi that a weak human like him should never try to go up against spiritual entities like him. He also told him that the undefeated legend of Tang Ying Hai's Zhang Yi shall be rewritten. Then the snake on his neck rushed toward Zhang Yi to bite him to death. However, before it even reaches him, its head has been chopped off from its body. Hades was frightened. He then stared at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was actually gripping the other snake that would bite him. Hades could not believe his strength. He wondered how can he still fight in a situation like that. Zhang Yi told him that he had always wondered why his wounds healed so quickly. He also wondered why he is the only survivor of the tragedy in the mountains 2 years ago. He stood up and asked him if only a spiritual entity can beat another spiritual entity. What a coincidence, he said in a cold tone. Hades was shivering in fear. He started to sweat. Zhang Yi raised his head to look at Hades eye to eye, and then he told him that he might be a spiritual entity who died once before, too. Zhang Yi grinned as he tells Hades what he thinks he truly is. But Hades still does not believe him. Zhang Yi then smirked over Hades' disbelief of his true form. Hades immediately let out another snake from his neck to attack Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi then grabbed it before it hurt him. Zhang Yi told him why does it seem like he is such in a hurry while grinning. He gave him a very sharp stare as he crossed his hands over his crest. All of a sudden, Hades' snakes were shattered from his neck. Hades got angrier. He wanted to kill Zhang Yi right at that moment. Zhang Yi just smirked over his death threat for him. Then Hades turned himself into a 3-headed gigantic snake. The one on the side attacked Zhang Yi, but he dodged it. The one in the center noticed Zhang Yi's movement. Zhang Yi leaped from one part of the snake's body to another, but he lost a hold of his rope while doing this. He looked at it as it slowly fell down away from him. He then jumped to get his rope back while the snake was trying to swallow him whole. Finally, he got his rope back. He swished it as if he was trying to scare Hades. The snake opened its mouth so wide that Zhang Yi will surely fit into it. Zhang Yi held both ends of the rope. Then he jumped from the ground and threw the rope over the snake's head. He pulled the rope down, causing the snake to be pulled also. The snake crashed to the ground. The snake saw Zhang Yi running towards Hades' body. Then he coiled the rope around his arms. He leaps towards Hades. Then he punched him in the stomach, bringing his elongated snake head to shorten back to its original size. The strike was so powerful that Hades crashed into the wall behind him. Something in a form like a crystal shattered inside Hades' body. Then he coughed a few times. He asked Zhang Yi what he really is since he does not have any spiritual power. Zhang Yi told him to cut the crap. Then he prepares his rope once again. However, Hades still does not want to give up that easily. Somewhere, a pale hand seemed like reading an aura through its thumb. Hades grudges in pain. Then he screamed. He asked it to stop what he was doing to him. He then placed his hands over his head as if he was experiencing a severe headache at that moment. Zhang Yi just looked at him as a green aura gushed out of his eyes and mouth. Hades fell on his knees, still letting out the green aura. Eventually, Hades collapsed on the ground and the green aura vanished. Zhang Yi called his name to check if he is still conscious, but Hades did not answer. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi heard steps nearing him. It was Bai Kai. She told him that Hades will not wake up again since she shattered his spiritual wheels. Hades is not dead for real. Zhang Yi does not seem to notice what Bai Kai had told him. What he noticed was her legs. Bai Kai stared at him for a few seconds before speaking. She has not told Zhang Yi anything about her real situation. Zhang Yi swallowed as he realized what Bai Kai is trying to say. His mouth was left wide open for his discovery about her. He now understands that she was actually dead when Zhang Yi found him. Bai Kai remembered something from her past, a family, then herself on a wheelchair. Bai Kai's eyes widened. She was afraid of what Zhang Yi might feel. She then embraced Zhang Yi and told him that it was not the time to talk about that. They must leave the place first. Zhang Yi agreed to her and he embraced her back, tighter. With his sad eyes, he beckoned her to go. Zhang Yi was seated on a chair with his top clothes off. He told Bai Kai that the wound on his side only hurt a little bit. She then told him that the pain will stop soon, so he must bear with it for now. Bai Kai proceeded to summon a power with her hand, and a green aura appeared on her hand. But he stopped her. She looked at him with confused eyes, asking him what is the matter. Zhang Yi asked if that was what she had extracted from Hades, the residual spiritual power that she collected after Hades was defeated. As she collected the residue, the Lifespan Management Bureau was coming, so they leave immediately. Zhang Yi screamed after realizing that she would stuff that residue into his body. Bai Kai agreed. She told Zhang Yi that it would do him good, so he should stop resisting. She then slowly placed the circle on his wounded side. Zhang Yi burst into laughter because what Bai Kai was doing tickled him so much. Eventually, the wound started to heal faster. Zhang Yi dropped on the floor, saying that he is now dirty and not clean anymore for having Hades' residue inside him. Nevertheless, he was still impressed that it actually worked. He then told her that every time he got wounded, it would also heal very fast. Bai Kai asked him if he also noticed how his chest would rot whenever he got hurt. They looked at each other as if they were thinking of something very important. She then placed her hand on his chest, telling him that there was something there that absorbs and suppresses his spiritual power. He had no idea that Bai knew all along that he was also a spiritual entity. He then asked her if she knew what that thing is. She did not. But one thing is for sure, what's in there is obviously something very dangerous. She told her that last time, that thing of him almost sucked her dry that made Zhang Yi blush. Her feet suddenly felt numb, so she asked him to carry her back to her room. Zhang Yi wondered why she liked getting carried so much when she can actually walk. Not that he hated it though. Zhang Yi carried her but ended up getting her in his room instead of hers. Bai Kai immediately told him that he was mistaken. Early in the morning at Tang Ying High, Zhang Yi was lying on 2 tables thinking about weird stuff like the undead and spiritual entities. He was thinking about it seriously until somebody called him from outside the room. It was Gu Dong. He asked him to come outside for a moment. Zhang turned his face to look at her. He then walked through the door and asked Gu Dong what's the matter. She told him that their chance is there. He does not know what she was talking about. Gu Dong then reminded him of his promise to go with her to apologize to the student council president. Then he remembered. There will be a joint activity between their dance club and the student council soon. She asked him to come with her. Zhang Yi agreed to her idea without a doubt. Out of exhilaration, Gu Dong embraced Zhang Yi's arm very tightly. Then she let go of him after realizing that it was a bit inappropriate. They were not aware that Zuo Zai was there all along. She saw what they did and it seems like she was not happy to see it. She then continued walking to the room. She purposely walked through between Gu Dong and Zhang Yi. Then she grabbed Zhang Yi on the back of his shirt. Gu Dong was left in fear and disbelief while seeing how Zuo Zai just dragged Zhang Yi away like that. Zhang Yi asked her immediately if she can stop dragging him like a cat. He still has an image to maintain. However, Zuo Zai does not seem to care about what he said. Then she put her arm over his neck, which lowered him down. Gu Dong got worried when she saw how Zuo Zai treat the legendary undefeated Zhang Yi. The day surrounding was quiet, making the rustling of the dry leaves they walked in sound louder. She threw him on the wall forcefully, put her arm to his neck, making his face lift higher. Then she proceeded to ask him to spill what he has to say right away while pinning him on the wall. She wanted to know where was he last night. Zhang Yi stared at her before answering. Zuo Zai was still pinning Zhang Yi onto the wall while asking him where he came from before he went to Bao Hui's house last night. She was worried knowing that the murderer might appear at any time or moment. She's acting like this because she saw the spiritual entity version of Hades. She suspects Zhang Yi of trying to catch him alone since he has been on his own a lot these days, until he finally admitted to her that Hades was already dead. A man wearing a glove said that the spiritual sea was shattered. Red Bean embraced Zhang Yi tightly because of what he had done. She told Zhang Yi that he does really have great potential for hunting his first spiritual entity so quickly. Ghostwater then asked him how was he able to kill Hades with that rope when it is normally used to restrain. Zhang Yi told them that it was not him who killed Hades. When he met him, he bound him with the spirit-bounding rope. But then he died suddenly. Ghostwater seemed suspicious about Zhang Yi's testimony. He remembered that he is currently living with a 6-wheel spiritual entity in his house. Zhang Yi looked more serious after hearing him talk. Then Red Bean interrupted, saying that she suspected the corpse thief rather than the girl he's living with. She then explained to Zhang Yi what the corpse thief is. It has been stealing corpses to run into a spiritual entity, and just 2 days ago, Hades' corpse was stolen. Then she embraced Zhang Yi again, saying that it doesn't matter because all the merit is still his. However, somebody was still confused. It was Zuo Zai. She could not believe that it was the corpse thief. Why would he kill the spiritual entity he made himself? Ghostwater was thinking the same way as her. One thing for sure is that they no longer have a way of knowing what information Hades knew. After hearing their theories, Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he is safe now. Zhang Yi was holding a piece of paper while Zuo Zai was telling him to hand in Ghostwater's autopsy report at the counter so he can trade for some extra life. Zhang Yi asked her how much can he trade for, and Zuo Zai answered that he can get a few months or so. She suddenly became furious because she was expecting that he thinks that the tradable life was too little. No matter how little it is, Zhang Yi accepted it, thinking that he will accumulate life bit by bit. Then she told him that she understands his hurry to save his grandpa. But Zhang Yi told her that it was not because he wants to get all the merit for himself that he tried to catch Hades alone. He insisted to her that he had never thought of that. Zuo Zai explained that she was just worried for him since he is still a rookie. She thought he could not handle his own schoolmate. Zhang Yi paused for a moment to reminisce how he felt when Hades died. Even though he does not care for him, he still felt uncomfortable seeing him die in front of him. Then he looked at Zuo Zai and told her that he did not expect her to be so considerate. Zuo Zai felt awkward about what he said. She then became furious, once again yelling to him that she was not being as considerate to him as he thinks. She grabbed Zhang Yi's shirt and asked him to just be a good underling, and do not step out of line to make sure that he will be just fine. They looked at each other, then the teller called Zhang Yi's number, asking him to proceed to the counter. He did not realize that it was his number, but Zuo Zai knew that it was his, so she asked him to go. The teller gave Zhang Yi a top-up card that is worth 2 months. Zhang Yi stared at the card and smiled, feeling how close he was to saving his grandpa. Zuo Zai noticed that he was taking way too long for nothing, so she asked him if he was already done. She then suggested that they should eat something to celebrate his achievement. However, Zhang Yi rejected her offer since he has something to take care of at that time. He told her that it was a personal matter he promised to Gu Dong. He waved goodbye to Zuo Zai while telling her that he is now going back to school. Then he continued walking away. Gu Dong was in a room, but she was already on her way out. She clicked something before opening the door. Then she walked out of the room. She sighed as if she was expecting something that did not happen. After a few seconds, she suddenly heard someone calling her name. She turned her head to see who was it, and turns out it was Zhang Yi, who was exhausted from running in order to get to school quicker. He quickly apologized to Gudong for being so late because he had to do something. He realized that he was too late since the event is already over. However, Gudong told him that it is fine and that she understands the urgency of the thing he had to do with Zuo Zai. Zhang Yi was shocked by what she said. He wondered if she really knew what he and Zuo Zai did. Gudong's face turned red as she told him that she knew Zuo Zai loves him. Zhang Yi almost turned to stone out of shock after hearing what Gudong thinks about him and Zuo Xi. He then explained to her that it is impossible since Zuo Zai almost beat him to death before. Gudong's eyes widened after realizing that she just misunderstood his relationship with Zui Zai. Zhang Yi proceeded to ask her if she already apologized to Zhang Yi today. She has not yet apologized to him. She does not know to bring up the topic with him. Zhang Yi forced a cough just to make their conversation less awkward. He then said that he now get what she meant. He then put his hands across Gudong's shoulder and asked her if she wanted to do something bad with him. Gudong turned red. She was caught off guard by Zhang Yi. Her heartbeat became faster and faster as they continued talking. She looked down out of embarrassment and awkwardness. Then she asked him to be gentle, for she never has done it before. Zhang Yi told her to just relax. It is normal to feel anxious the first time, but she will eventually get used to it. Zhang Yi was holding Gudong's feet as she asked him to push harder. Gudong kept on whimpering because of the discomfort she was feeling. Zhang Yi put his hand on her hips to help her feel more comfortable. However, Gudong just whimpered louder this time. She also became hesitant to continue doing what they were doing. Zhang Yi wanted her to stay more relaxed and encourage her to just go along with him. Gudong seems to have no other choice but to agree with him. Then she told him that she is now going in. Zhang Yi asked her to stop worrying about the monitoring cameras because they will not be seen by them. After a few minutes, Gudong successfully entered the student council office from the window they climbed. Gudong stopped for a moment, thinking if will it be sincere enough to just give him a thank you note. Zhang Yi also entered the office after Gudong, as Gudong did. He then told her that Zhang Yi will definitely feel her gratitude and emotions through that. But Gudong still thinks that was not a good idea to go there by the window. Zhang Yi will be angry for sure, she said. Zhang Yi disagreed with her because Zhang Yi even confronted Bao Hui's gang just to save her. Gudong proceeded to write the letter for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi noticed that she looked happy and she was able to say what she wanted to say by writing it. He planned to bring up the matter about Gu Hai with her after she finished her business with Zhang Yi. He stretched his hands, then he noticed something on the shelf. It was a picture of Gudong. He suspected the president of the student council of secretly taking a picture of Gudong. He then came to think that maybe the two of them were both afraid to open up to each other. After inspecting the picture, he noticed something on the side. When he opened the picture frame, he discovered that Gu Hai's note was stuck there. He started thinking, why would Zhang Yi keep this note? Was it because he liked Gudong or something else? Afterward, someone called Zhang Yi on the phone. It was Bao Hui's number, but the other person on the line was Zuo Zai. She asked him to come there quickly because the guy was there. Zhang Yi was hurried by her urgency. He told her quickly that he will be there right away, then he left. Gudong wanted to know where is he going, but he did not tell her. He only told her that it was an emergency. Meanwhile, Zuo Zai seemed horrified by what is in front of her. It was a red-eyed spiritual entity-like creature growling. It has sharp claws as well as teeth. Bao Hui and Zuo Zai stood side by side in front of the beast. The spiritual entity let out a horrifying roar that echoed inside Bao Hui's hangout place. As soon as Zhang Yi to the place where Zuo Zai and Bao Hui are, he noticed right away that there were so many cats or puppets at the entrance. The cats gathered outside, some gathered beneath Zhang Yi's feet. He was eager to know who or what might have caused all of this trouble. His entrance was just in time when Zuo Zai attacked the beast with her demon-subduing Vajra. Zhang Yi was startled after seeing the beast, which he called a giant dog. He then thought that maybe this had nothing to do with Gu Hai instead. Zuo Zai was about to stab the beast with the Vajra on the beast's back, but it shook his head, making her to be thrown away. Zhang Yi quickly moves toward the place where Zuo Zai might land so he can catch her, but he failed to catch her properly, and they both crashed instead, with Zuo Zai's butt landing exactly on Zhang Yi's face. Zuo Zai quickly told him that she is just fine and then explained that the beast is a rare beast-type 4-wheel spiritual entity. Bao Hui grabbed a metal thing that he will use as a weapon to attack the beast. He threw it onto the beast, but it seems like the beast did not even feel it. The beast looked at Bao Hui with anger in his eyes. Then it ran towards Bao Hui to attack back. Zhang Yi and Zuo Zai were both worried about what might the beast do to him. However, Bao Hui successfully managed to dodge the beast's attack. Suddenly, Rakshasa showed up and started cursing at the beast's behavior. Bao Hui also cursed when he realized that the cat just talked. Rakshasa was caught off guard by him. Because Bao Hui discovered that he can talk, he smashed him with his tail on his face. Then he scratched Bao Hui's face while commanding him to bow to him. Zhang Yi was worried about Bao Hui being scratched like that, but Rakshasa said that he deserves it, so he will not be able to discover more. The beast growled again, bringing alertness to everyone. Rakshasa asked everyone to stay out of the trouble. It was rare to see that kind of spiritual entity, so he wanted to loosen up a bit and vanquish it himself. He walked towards the beast-type spiritual entity, revealing the massive size difference between the two. Zhang Yi wanted to stop Rakshasa, thinking it was foolish, but Zuozai stopped him for her to see how he fight for the first time. Rakshasa is known to be the laziest captain among the squad captains, but there is a rumor that he is actually really strong. She also told him that they will also be given a reward since it is a team operation, so there is no need to worry about it. Zhang Yi then agreed to her. He decided to join Zuozai in observing the captain's fighting skills and true strength. Rakshasa let out his sharp claws as his eyes narrowed. Then he smashed the beast-type spiritual entity forcefully, but only left the beast with a few scratches. The beast was angered due to the captain's sudden attack. The beast then showed its paw with sharp claws. Zhang Yi was worried about the captain, but Zuozai believed that he will just be fine. She also knew that Rakshasa's ability is metallization. Therefore, an attack with that intensity will be just like a massage to him. The beast scratched the ground a few times before it ran towards Rakshasa. Everything went so fast, they just noticed that Rakshasa's tail pierced through the paw. There is also a lot of blood. Zhang Yi could not help but be amazed, for the captain is indeed as sharp as metal. Rakshasa became more serious now. He wanted to end this fight as soon as possible. Zhang Yi wondered what was he doing, but Zuozai is sure that he is gathering so much spiritual power for a powerful skill. She heard that he can turn things he touches into metal, which is maybe what Rakshasa was planning to do. All of a sudden, the beast growled out of being in so much pain because Rakshasa just turned his blood into metal. Zhang Yi was shocked that he can also do that. He then wondered what kind of ability would he have if his spiritual power was not being suppressed. Rakshasa felt strange. He thinks that there is something fishy about this spiritual entity. His attack just now did not shatter its spiritual wheels, so why does he look like his spiritual sea has been dispersed? Zuozai agreed with him. She also could not sense any spiritual power in him anymore. Rakshasa is certain that something is not right now. Aside from the strange thing about the beast, Zuozai also found it strange that the one who attacked Bao Hui was the beast-type spiritual entity. She wondered why Gu Hai did not attack him himself. Zhang Yi thinks that maybe they have had it wrong the whole time. Maybe he is not the spiritual entity to begin with. Zuozai and Rakshasa were listening very well to Zhang Yi as he continued telling the information he have gathered. He told them that he was at the student council office just now and found Gu Hai's note that was glued back together. The pieces have been picked up by Zhang Yi. Zuozai also added that Zhang Yi also knew the content of the curse and he even has a dog. Rakshasa suggested that they look at another target for their investigation. Then he ordered Zhang Yi to stay there for some time in case the culprit gets lured to go there, while he and Zuozai will go look for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was frightened about the fact that he has to wait there for the culprit. Zuozai answered him that he is the one who should wait there because he is the rookie. After 15 minutes passed, Bao Hui is still lying on the ground near the beast. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, was sitting on the floor patiently waiting for whatever might happen. After some time, the cats outside the place meowed loudly as if to signal that something is coming. Zhang Yi felt it too. Certainly, there is someone or something coming. He then peeks behind the post to see who has come. She was a girl. She is about to touch Bao Hui. When Zhang Yi rushed towards her to stop her from doing what she is doing, the girl noticed him right away, and so she turned her face to see him. However, Zhang Yi was fast enough to push her far away from Bao Hui. Zhang Yi lifted his arm to punch the girl, but then he stops after he realized that the person who entered was actually a girl. He just asked who she is and what was her business there for coming so late at night. The girl answered while Zhang Yi was still on top of her that she came there to recover the materials. Zhang Yi wanted to know whether she is a Tangying High student or not, and if she is, what year and class she is in. Disregarding Zhang Yi's questions, the girl told him that he was actually her type. Then she sits up so quickly, catching Zhang Yi off guard, and she kissed him. Zhang Yi cannot do anything because she was already on top of him. A blue shimmering ball suddenly went out from her head as well as Zhang Yi's head. Then she realized that Zhang Yi was actually a spiritual entity. She pinched him on his cheek because she said that she has never seen a spiritual entity that unique before. She added that if she were not a spirit mender, she would have not been able to sense his spiritual power. Zhang Yi pushed her away and asked her once again about her identity, but the girl still did not tell her name. Instead, she thinks that he might be more familiar with her new toys rather than her name. Her toys are named Snakey and Doggy. Zhang Yi recalled right away the spiritual entities that they have just killed after hearing Snakey and Doggy. Then he told her that she must be the corpse thief who has been stealing corpses everywhere. The girl seems unimpressed by what Zhang Yi told her. She does not like the nickname given to her. So, she introduced herself properly to him, telling him that her name is Seamstress and she is actually a spirit mender. She also explained to him that in order to make the perfect toy, she has been working tirelessly to gather suitable materials. Then she asked Zhang Yi whether he wanted to become her toy, and Zhang Yi interrupted her and told her she would rather become his prey. He then lifted his arm, ready to punch the girl again. But the girl was not threatened by him even a little. She told him that she does not want to fight, all she wants is to sew toys. And without even trying so hard, she dodged Zhang Yi's attack that easily. But she has someone who can fight with Zhang Yi since he seems so eager to have a fight. Zhang Yi clearly has no idea who is she referring to, until a masked man appeared in front of the girl. The man brought Gudong with him as he arrived. The masked man addressed the spirit mender as master. Seamstress acknowledged Gudong for having such a pretty face. Zhang Yi's mouth was left wide open after seeing Gudong unconscious with the masked man. The masked man begged the spirit mender to stitch him and Gudong together. Zhang Yi called the masked man. He asked him if he was Zhang Yi and why would he risk hurting Gudong after all that he had done to her. The masked man looked at Zhang Yi and wanted to ask something but chose not to. Turns out, Zhang Yi wanted to be stitched together with Gudong so that they will never be apart again. Then he turned to Zhang Yi to accuse him of tricking Gudong into liking him. He even worked together with the evil Bao Hui. Zhang Yi quickly get his rope after Zhang Yi threatened him of sending him to hell. He also threatened of sending him to the Lifespan Management Bureau. The spirit mender urges Zhang Yi to go slaughter each other. She loves the sound of flesh bursting open. It is okay even if they get torn to pieces. She said that she will just carefully stitch them back together. Zhang Yi warned Zhang Yi to stop looking down on him for he was the one who defeated Hades. Zhang Yi placed Gudong carefully on the floor as he told the spirit mender to not lump him together with that evil defective product. Zhang Yi could not believe what Zhang Yi had just called him. The girl spoke. She said that it took her so much effort to stitch the python but it ran out and caused trouble so it really deserves to be destroyed. Zhang Yi just laughed over Zhang Yi bragging about killing Hades. Zhang Yi wanted to stop the crap and stop fighting instead. Zhang Yi then stood firmly as a superhero does before engaging in battle. He called this his justice time. There is a bright light behind Zhang Yi so Zhang Yi did not see him rush towards him. Before he even knows it, Zhang Yi pushed him with his hand on Zhang Yi's face. Because of his powerful attack, they both crashed on the ground leaving cracks on it. Zhang Yi's hand was still on Zhang Yi's face as he continued pinning him down to the ground. Zhang Yi clenched his teeth which show how angry he was with Zhang Yi. Finally, he let go of Zhang Yi as he said that he is such a fragile boy. However, the spirit mender does not think that it will only end just like that. Zhang Yi looked confused. All of a sudden Zhang Yi started to groan. Unnoticed, he threw his rope toward Zhang Yi. The rope moves around Zhang Yi's neck that causes him to choke. Zhang Yi smashed Zhang Yi to the ceiling using the rope. Zhang Yi tried really hard to get the rope out of his neck but the grip is too tight. Zhang Yi, who is holding the other end of the rope, swished it even more. As he continued swishing the rope, it gets twisted all over Zhang Yi's body. And after a few moments, Zhang Yi is completely unable to move because of the rope that is tied across his whole body. Zhang Yi tried to speak but he could not even utter a single word clearly because his mouth is also covered with the rope. Zhang Yi wiped his sweat and thanked Bai Kai on his mind because if it is not for her, he would not know how to do that properly. Then he looked up to face the spirit mender and told her that is his turn next. But instead of being threatened by Zhang Yi's gaze, she seems to like it instead. She felt nice being stared at like that. She wondered if he has a plan of breaking her bones one by one or hurting her just as she like. She seemed to be on cloud 9 thinking about Zhang Yi. But Zhang Yi was not happy as she does. Then Seamstress suggested that they should get to know each other first before they do something like that. Zhang Yi brutally rejected her suggestion. But the girl wanted to tell him more about her anyway. She told Zhang Yi that her stitching ability can join two different souls together. A perfect union between the soul and the flesh is actually flexible. They can act as one or individually as they want. Zhang Yi wanted to know what was she trying to imply by saying that. The girl told him that she only meant that he should be careful. Little did Zhang Yi know, the beast he killed earlier was standing at his back. He slowly turned around to see what was behind the shadow cast in front of him. And then he finally saw the beast which growled loudly opening its mouth as wide as he can. The beast was already about to bite Zhang Yi when he looked back. And unfortunately, the beast-type spiritual entity has successfully bitten him. Zhang Yi screams loudly in agony and pain due to the powerful attack. After biting him, the beast flung Zhang Yi away using its mouth. Then it bit Zhang Yi again, piercing its sharp teeth on his back. The spirit mender seemed so ruthless that she actually enjoyed seeing Zhang Yi suffer like that. Zhang Yi could not do anything but scream in pain. Seamstress' eyes moved upward out of satisfaction for witnessing Zhang Yi bathe in his own blood. Then the beast spitted out Zhang Yi again, making him be thrown away. He crashed so badly into a parked car inside. And because of the impact, he rolled away from the car after crashing into it. Zhang Yi tried to stand up while wondering what was happening. He thought that the dog or beast was already defeated earlier. Suddenly, someone spoke to Zhang Yi saying that it is indeed possible for the dog to live again. That is what a perfect union looks like, explained Zhang Yi. He also said that his soul and the captain's can merge and separate to move individually at will. Zhang Yi could not believe that what he is saying is actually possible. Seamstress interrupted, bragging about how amazing her creation was. Back then when she met them, the captain was already dead. But Zhang Yi was still alive. He was embracing his beloved best friend at that time. She looked down at the two and an idea came to her mind. She then gave them a second chance. A chance to take back control of his destiny. Zhang Yi reached out for the lady's feet while begging for strength. He started crying as he continued begging for the lady to make him stronger. Eventually, Zhang Yi gained the strength that he longs for. At the present time, Zhang Yi said that the judgment for Zhang Yi must continue now. He and his dog, which is now a beast-type spiritual entity, stood side by side. On the other hand, Zhang Yi was trying his best to stand up to his feet. But before he even did that, Zhang Yi attacked him again, making a loud bang on a post. Zhang Yi coughed out of the impact, but still he was still trying to stand up. He thinks that the injury is too severe and that he cannot move very well. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi started choking Zhang Yi by headlocking him between his muscled arm. Expectedly, Zhang Yi could not get away. Zhang Yi's body is significantly bigger than him. Finally, Zhang Yi punched Zhang Yi in his back. His arm penetrated Zhang Yi's body and found its way out through his stomach. Seamstress excitedly asked Zhang Yi if he can sense anything. Zhang Yi felt strange. He cannot sense Zhang Yi's spiritual wheel at all. He looked at Zhang Yi and wondered what kind of entity he must be. Zhang Yi was too tired after all the damage he took from Zhang Yi and his dog. The spirit mender was also curious about Zhang Yi's true identity. She then brings out a surgical knife. She going to use it to make an in-depth inspection of Zhang Yi. She proceeded to cut him from his forehead. She will do whatever it takes just to find out what was inside the depth of his soul. Little by little, she started discovering things about Zhang Yi. The bridge of judgment is broken. The road to heaven has collapsed. He is the only one left. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi's eyes turned red. Eventually, Gudong gained her consciousness back. And so, she screamed when she saw that the two are doing things to Zhang Yi. Seamstress turned her face towards Gudong out of annoyance. To lessen her anger, Zhang Yi told her that he is going to kill Gudong now. Gudong was scared. She told Zhang Yi to stay away from her. But Zhang Yi ignored her warning. He told her that she does not have to worry, for it will not affect their union. The spirit mender was still busy figuring out things about Zhang Yi. Suddenly, a bright light emerged from Zhang Yi. It was so bright that almost blinded everyone. All of them subsequently looked towards him to check what just happened. Then suddenly a big entity appeared from where the bright light came from. It was overflowing with power. It was certainly Zhang Yi, but it seems like he has turned into a different version of him. Zhang completely turned into something. He seemed so much stronger now. Seamstress was noticeably frightened to see how Zhang Yi changed. He even let out a powerful force that increased her fear. She fell to her knees after that. She also noticed that he has such a powerful spiritual sea. She knew it the first time she met him that there is certainly special about him. And now, he unleashed it all before her eyes. Zhang Yi put his hand on his chest. Then he forced his arms inside him as if he was trying to get something inside. Zhang Yi, Gudong, and the spirit mender were all shocked by his gruesome act. Finally, Zhang Yi came across with what he was looking for inside his body. He let it out. It was a very long metal chain. Zhang Yi grinned a little to scare his opponents, then he started to move the chain toward them. Zhang Yi was angry but not scared, as he said. He and his dog were both ready for whatever he may do at this time. A loud bang was heard when the end of the metal chain hit the dog, which caused it to spurt blood all over. Zhang Yi was shocked by what had just happened. Turns out, the chain pierced the dog from inside of its mouth and continued its way outside. The chain seems to be absorbing all the dog's power. Zhang Yi also felt the pain as the dog does, and eventually, his spiritual wheels crack. He fell down on the ground while enduring the pain, and he said that there is no way for it to happen. He was referring to his spiritual wheel being broken. Seamstress is just as amazed as Zhang Yi that Zhang Yi is able to destroy two of Zhang Yi's spiritual wheels with one hit. She wondered if he actually has stronger spiritual power than Zhang Yi. If that is the case, then she has to run now. Gudong was still on the floor. Surely, she was confused about everything happening. Zhang Yi turned his face to see her. At this time, Gudong is extremely frightened for her life. He then suddenly moves toward her. He reaches to grab her with his sharp paw. But then, he saw something coming before he even touched Gudong. Zhang Yi was thrown away from Gudong, and he crashed into the wall behind him. Zhang Yi got so angry, claiming that he is the one who was supposed to be the apostle of justice. He was holding Zhang Yi's chain that struck him so hard. Gudong asked the masked man about his identity, the reason behind kidnapping her, and for killing all those people. One thing certain to him is that he is not her brother, is what Zhang Yi told her. She then decided to go near him. She took his mask off to see who was behind that disguise. At last, Zhang Yi's face was revealed. Gudong could not comprehend that the masked man was actually Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi grinned since Gudong still remembers him all this time. Gudong demanded him to give his reason for killing all those people. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi choked her while telling her that he just gave them a mere punishment and she deserved the same for leaving him behind after what he had done to her. Zhang Yi was so angry about what Gudong did to him that he wanted to kill her at that moment. Gudong cried in pain and guilt. But Zhang Yi was there. He would not let anyone hurt his precious Gudong. Zhang Yi made the chain move deeper into his heart even more, which killed him. It even pierced through the post. It all happened while Zhang Yi was still holding Gudong's neck, so she saw Zhang Yi's brutal death. Now, the chain is completely covered with blood, dripping. Gudong started to realize what Zhang Yi was referring to. He was actually referring to the day he saved him from Bao Hui's gang. But it was not true that she left him to die. She went away to get some help. Actually, she has always wanted to thank him, but she just could not do it. Now that Zhang Yi is done with Zhang Yi, he now turned to the spirit mender. She was about to escape the scene, but Zhang Yi was faster. He made his chain go towards her. The spirit mender was so frightened that she could not help but to look back. Unfortunately to her, the chains got her. It hit her right arm, resulting for it being cut. She could not think of what she might do to stop him, but she manages to get her scalpel. Her right arm was removed from her body and it fell on the ground. She continued running a few steps, but Zhang Yi will not allow her to escape. His chains circled around her to keep her from running away. Zhang Yi has completely lost it. She is done for. All of a sudden, Bai Kai appeared in the scene and she tried to stop Zhang Yi from being so gruesome. She begged her to just go home instead, but Zhang Yi doesn't seem to notice her. Bai Kai lent her hand to Zhang Yi and begged him to go home with her. However, Zhang Yi seems to be not on his normal thinking. Bai Kai tried again. This time, she put Zhang Yi under her control since he would not cooperate. Zhang Yi tried to release himself from Bai Kai's control, and finally, he got it removed. Despite that, Bai Kai was still eager to save Zhang Yi from this madness. Gudong was shocked after seeing what Bai Kai did. Bai Kai also noticed her. She does not want her to be involved in this, so she snapped her fingers to put Gudong asleep. Seamstress rushed towards Bai Kai and asked her what she was doing there. Bai Kai answered her that if she did not come, she would not be able to escape him. Seamstress grinned after discovering that Bai Kai was concerned about her even a little bit. Then she proceeded to ask her why is she staying by his side. Bai Kai answered that it is none of her business and that if she wanted to live, she has to leave now. Seamstress looked at her with a blank face. Then she told her that she will not leave just yet. She wants to make him pay for destroying all her toys. Bai Kai made it clear to her that she will not allow anyone to touch Zhang Yi. She also threatened her that she will be her dog's company in the afterlife if she still refuses to leave by now. Finally, Seamstress agreed to leave the place as Bai Kai asked. Before she left, she warned Bai Kai to not let her be killed by him because if that happens, she will go after him no matter what. Then she finally leaves. Now that Seamstress has gone, she now has to deal with Zhang Yi alone. Zhang Yi unleashes his strength as Bai Kai tried to control him again. Bai Kai struggled because Zhang Yi is way stronger now than he has ever been. Zhang Yi screamed as he summoned his power. Bai Kai could not hold him any longer. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi's chain started moving again. It moved towards Bai Kai's direction, but she managed to dodge it. But he was not done yet. He made the chain go back to her. Bai Kai focused on the movement of the chains. Fortunately, there has been no successful attack that hit her. She managed to dodge it all. After dodging all the attacks, she noticed that something bumped into the chain that stopped it from moving around. The chains then came back to Zhang Yi. Turns out, Huo Juegong has thrown his sandal to the chains and now it is destroyed. He frowned because he thinks that he has to go home barefooted now. Bai Kai answered him that he might not, but that is not because she has a spare pair of sandals. She thinks that Huo Juegong might not be able to go back home if they cannot deal with that chain. Huo Juegong also thinks that this chain that she is talking about is a real problem for them. That is the soul-reaping chain used by the messenger of death to transport spirits to the afterlife before the road of the Netherworld crumbled. But still, Huo Juegong has a way to deal with it as long as Bai Kai can restrict Zhang Yi's movement. It seems like he is quite confident to challenge the soul-reaping chain. Bai Kai asked for his plan, and so he did tell her. She has to restrict Zhang Yi's movement so that he can remove the soul-reaping chain from his heart. And by doing that, he will probably wake up. But Bai Kai is still curious. Zhang Yi is not human, and he has lost his mind. Huo Juegong answered that as an administrator of the Lifespan Management Bureau, she should eliminate this kind of threat to society. Bai Kai asked Huo Juegong his reason for saving him. He did not answer just yet. Instead, he asked Bai Kai why would she always think of the worst of him. All of a sudden Zhang Yi's chain went crazy again, moving from one place to another. Huo Juegong then told her that if he did not defy the rules, he would have not caught her a long time ago. Bai Kai thinks that what happened at Mount Cranesong 2 years ago was not just a natural disaster. It is true since the guru from Huo Juegong's bureau went missing back then too. Huo Juegong finished smoking his cigarette and threw it. Then he looked at Bai Kai and asked her how did she know about that guru. Bai Kai hid behind the post and admitted that she hacked into the Lifespan Management Bureau system and saw the confidential files. Then he told her that that is the reason why he never trusted a spiritual entity with brain region mutations like her. They can't keep any secrets at all. He then admitted that, indeed, it looks like the guru was actually in Zhang Yi's body, though it is only a speculation. Bai Kai then warned him that he cannot remove the chain from his body because the guy will take over his body if that happens. But Huo Juegong believed that she was not sure about that. Besides, they need to find a way to ease the situation they are in right now. Bai Kai thinks that if the soul-reaping chain goes back into his body, he will then return to his original state. At this moment, Huo Juegong is so done with her that he just agreed to go with her plan. She then requested 5 uninterrupted minutes so she can unleash her spiritual domain fully. Huo Juegong was shocked that she can actually activate her spiritual domain. Only 1 in every 10,000 brain region mutants has a chance to become a spiritual entity that can do that. She heard Huo Juegong call her to be lucky for her ability, but she told him that the only luck she got in her life was meeting Zhang Yi. Huo Juegong's eyes narrowed. He remembered someone saying that he is the luckiest person in the world. He then told him that he will lend him his luck, and then he started summoning his power, until he has something in his hand that looked like a weapon made of electricity. All of a sudden, he launched it onto the ground. It made a loud bang and a massive force that ran towards the direction of Zhang Yi. The force was too powerful, so Zhang Yi jumped from the place he was standing to keep himself from the attack. Though he jumped so high and right on time, the force still reached him mid-air, but the damage was not that massive. From up there, he tried to attack back Huo Juegong, but when he looked at him, he is already aiming for his next attack. Zhang Yi did not have enough time to think of a way to dodge it, so the attack hit him successfully. He tried his best to endure the attack. Zhang Yi managed to survive that attack. But now, he became angrier than he was earlier. He also summoned all his strength while Huo Juegong is still unleashing his power on him. He started to make use of his chains again. While Huo Juegong was focused on his attack, he did not notice the chain that struck his stomach. Zhang Yi was using almost all his strength against him, and so is Huo Juegong. The two of them must be a good match. All of a sudden, the chain in the field made by Huo Juegong started cracking. Huo Juegong then told Zhang Yi that it is now his turn to attack. Zhang Yi gathered his strength again for his attack. By this time, Bai Kai seemed to have completed unleashing her full spiritual domain. She put her hands towards Zhang Yi and released her power. The force from her was too powerful and it made a very bright light that shone inside the place. After she unleashed her power, Bai Kai was laying on the floor while Zhang Yi's lower body seemed to be stuck frozen in a huge ice. Eventually, Bai Kai woke up. Bai Kai, who first gained consciousness, tried to wake up Zhang Yi, who was stuck on ice. She kept on calling him a few times already, but he still does not wake up. She put her hand on his forehead out of worry. She then thinks of a possible way to wake him up. Eventually, she noticed the ice where Zhang Yi was stuck. She then wondered how will she be able to break the ice. She stopped for a moment and thinks about the possible way. She put her hand on the ice's surface and used her power to melt it. But she was shocked that it did not even crack. She then thinks that she has to hit it harder this time. After some time, she punched the ice as hard as she could. Luckily, the ice started cracking. Because she thinks that it is working, she did punch it hard again. Zhang Yi was still unconscious even though Bai Kai was smashing the ice where he is in. Bai Kai kept on punching the ice in the hope that she will make Zhang Yi released from it. More cracks appeared on the surface of the ice. It made her more eager to keep doing what she's doing. She continued hitting the ice even though her hand is now dripping with blood. Finally, she is now able to get Zhang Yi from it. Still, Zhang Yi is unconscious, but at least he is not stuck on that ice anymore. Bai Kai sighed because of tiredness due to what she had to do. She then thinks of something that could wake up Zhang Yi from his sleep. Eventually, the ice started cracking again. All of a sudden, Bai Kai sunk into the water beneath the ice that cracked open. No matter what, she must not sink into the depth of his consciousness. But she was about to lose her consciousness. Will this be the end for her? Will she really die here inside Zhang Yi's world? She already lost hope, but all of a sudden, someone grabbed her. It was a man in the form of Zhang Yi who saved Bai Kai from drowning in his own consciousness. Bai Kai finally woke up. She could not believe that she was still alive. When she rises up, she stared at Zhang Yi, who was by her side all this time. She asked him if he was really Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi grinned and asked why would she ask a question like that to him. Of course, he's Zhang Yi, he said. Bai Kai was relieved when he told her that he was, indeed, Zhang Yi. She felt good now that he confirmed it. On the other hand, Zhang Yi finds her reaction weird, which made his face turn red. He then asked her to get off him since his feet were already numb. Bai Kai then agreed to him. Zhang Yi thought that this scene looks familiar. Maybe Bai Kai is getting better at climbing onto his bed. He then assumes that Zuo Zai will soon knock on the next door based on what happened before. He looked around the room and realized something. It was not their house. He wondered what was that place. He also asked Bai Kai where were they. All of a sudden, Zuo Zai emerges from the door. She wanted to answer Zhang Yi's question to Bai Kai. Zhang Yi was shocked that she really appeared as what he was expecting to happen. Zuo Zai then spoiled that place is the Lifespan Management Bureau detention room. Zhang Yi and Bai Kai subsequently look at her with very serious faces. Bai Kai and Zhang Yi were actually in Lifespan Management Bureau detention room. Zuo Zai then moved her hand towards Zhang Yi's t-shirt and raised it. She examined Zhang Yi's body, which felt so awkward by the way Zuo Zai did it. She discovered that the wound on his chest was already almost healed completely. The chains were also not visible anymore. Zhang Yi looked down as soon as Zuo Zai mentioned the chains. Zuo Zai then admitted that she knew that he is a spiritual entity already. Zhang Yi then apologized for not telling them sooner. Zuo Zai quickly grabbed Zhang Yi towards her for a tight hug. She told him that she should have not left him there alone. She also told him that she is really glad now for real that he survived. All of a sudden, someone pushed Zuo Zai away from Zhang Yi. Zuo Zai slammed into the wall hard. It was Bai Kai who pushed her away. She told her that there is no need to get physical. Zuo Zai then bragged that he is still her subordinate, so it's okay for her to do that. Somebody spoke from outside saying that Zuo Zai even helped Zhang Yi when he was unconscious. It was Red Bean, who is always seen floating. Zuo Zai told her to stop creeping up so silently. Red Ben then entered the room while saying that it is sure nice to be young. She loves watching people. It makes her heart itch with longing. Zhang Yi wondered if the bureau has made a decision about him and Red Bean. Bai Kai answered that it would not be that fast. Red Bean then told Zhang Yi that the higher-ups wanted to see him. Zuozai wanted to go with them, but Red Bean told her that Zhang Yi was the only one allowed. She was worried about whom Zhang Yi is going to meet there, but she remembered Hu Jiugong's promise to keep Zhang Yi safe. However, Red Bean told them that there has never been a caught spiritual entity who left the bureau alive before. So, no matter how the Thunder God boss wants to keep him safe, he still needs to have a valid reason and must follow procedures. Bai Kai thinks that Hu Jiugong wants Zhang Yi to meet the supervisors of the 24 areas. As expected of a rare brain region mutant, Red Bean confirmed that Bai Kai is right about what she thinks. Zhang Yi started to feel unsafe and wondered what should he do. Bai Kai advised him to just cooperate with Hu Jiugong because he is the best person who could help him. Zhang Yi undoubtedly agreed to her advice. They used the elevator to go down to the higher-ups' offices. While on the elevator, Red Bean kept on staring at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi felt so awkward with her, whom he addressed politely as his big sister. Red Bean then asked him if he knew that Zuozai's parents were killed by illegal spiritual entities. Zhang Yi knew it. He has seen it once in Ghostwater's illusion. She then asked what did he do to make Zuozai stay on his side despite knowing that he is also an illegal spiritual entity. He answered her that it is because they are teammates. She teased Zhang Yi because Bai Kai is willing to get arrested with him while Zuozai is willing to put aside her prejudice against illegal spiritual entities. What a difficult choice, she said. Finally, they arrived at level 31 of the building. Red Bean escorted Zhang Yi toward the higher-ups. When they arrived, he saw men sitting around the table with one man standing in front of them. Red Bean reported to Thunder God Boss that she has brought Zhang Yi to them. Zhang Yi seems nervous when Red Bean introduced him to the boss. The boss fixed his necktie before it turned around. Finally, he and Zhang Yi have crossed paths. Zhang Yi stood there so nervously, and all of a sudden, there was a huge and sharp ice rushing towards him. The ice then struck his stomach, making him bleed. He was thrown away because of the ice's impact. Red Bean became a little bit sweaty because of what happened to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi could not move since he became frozen because of the ice. On the other hand, the boss seemed unamazed by what had just happened. He asked the person responsible for it what was his reason for doing that. The person answered him that it is simply because he is an illegal spiritual entity, and an illegal spiritual entity is only fit to talk to them hanging from a wall. Furthermore, he thinks that Zhang Yi should be exterminated right away since he also infiltrated the Lifespan Management Bureau. While the boss and another man were talking, a dark purplish liquid started to emerge from the ice. The mysterious liquid touched the skin of his neck, which immediately causes him to shiver in pain. The liquid flowed upwards his neck, and the more it grows, the more painful it became for Zhang Yi. Red Bean looked at him but could not do anything until another person told them that a cute kid like him do not deserve a painful death. However, the boss thinks that it is too early to talk about his death. But the two don't seem to agree with him. The boss gathered his power. Then afterwards, he released a thunder through his finger. The thunder moves toward the direction of Zhang Yi, and because of that attack, the chain inside his chest was revealed. The people gathering around the table were all shocked after seeing the chain inside his chest. A specific person asked what was the thing inside the kid's chest. The chain then got out from his chest and started swirling around the ice. After a few moments, the ice started cracking and eventually, it became completely broken. The boss then told them that that thing was the reason for him calling a meeting. Zhang Yi was weak and he fell down to the ground after the ice to which he was hanged broke off. It seems like he's been suffering from a great pain because he couldn't stand. After seeing him like that, a person urged everyone to help him heal Zhang Yi. A green light started to emerge from Zhang Yi when the person started healing him. However, after some time the green light eventually faded away, showing that it isn't working as it should. The man then wondered if he was a six-wheel spiritual entity since the hearing pill can't fully heal him. The boss just watched them be amazed by Zhang Yi's uniqueness. The other person find it interesting and suggested that they should inspect him to confirm if he is truly a six-wheel spiritual entity. During all these moments, Zhang Yi was still laying on the ground. The person went near him to check his spiritual wheel. However, he was shocked because he couldn't find his spiritual wheel. The boss then explained that his chain constantly absorbs his spiritual power, and without spiritual power, the spiritual wheel would not form. The person who tried to help him realized that his healing pill has just been absorbed by his chain too. The other person wonders if that chain could be the mythical soul-reaping chain. The computer monitor then asked 11, who is an expert in this field, why is the soul-reaping chain in the possession of an illegal spiritual entity? 11 answered him that a lot has happened and it wouldn't be strange for a Netherworld artifact to appear anywhere. Someone said that it wouldn't be a strange thing for the soul-reaping chain to appear near the ancient Netherworld road either. Mount Cranesong specifically 2 years ago. The boss told them that Guru was searching for the ancient Netherworld road nearby before he went missing. He thinks that he has already found it back then. 11 said that the soul reaping will definitely resonate when it comes close to the ancient Netherworld road, and with Zhang Yi, they might find the ancient Netherworld road and the missing Guru as well. The boss agreed to what 11 has said. 11 then told the boss that she will go with him. The boss asked everyone if there is anyone who wished to join the investigation, but none of them answered. A person stood from his chair and asked if the meeting is done. Then he left first just to escape the probability of him being pushed to join the investigation. The others follow him and left as well. The boss seemed disappointed by them. Meanwhile, Red Bean was about to throw up because of this guy who smells like a piece of burnt pork that has gone bad in the fridge. That day, Zhang Yi, Red Bean, and Hu Jiugong were traveling by car. The car that they were using was so fancy and also seemed so expensive. Zhang Yi was worried about his life because Red Bean was driving too fast as if they were about to take off. However, Red Bean told him that she still can drive even faster than she already was. Hu Jiugong agreed. He told him that she actually made a car fly once that got half of her salary deducted. Red Bean was furious that he still remembered that moment. All of a sudden, Zhang Yi seemed to be thinking of something more serious than Red Bean's driving. He was completely taken by his thoughts. After some time, he then asked Hu Jiugong what exactly could the Lifespan Management Bureau plan to do with him. Red Bean looked at Hu Jiugong and waited for how will he respond. Hu Jiugong told him that he already carried out a few missions by that time, so he asked him what does he think. Zhang Yi looked clueless as he thinks of what Hu Jiugong told him. He recalled the spiritual entities that he has fought but he could not speak, he doesn't know. In that instance, Hu Jiugong told him that there is no rush for he will experience a lot of things in the future. By then, he hopes that he could make his own judgment one day. In the middle of the mountains, there is a building. It must be the place they will go. Red Bean parked the car on the side of the road near the building. They then all get off the car. Zhang Yi, who always seems so clueless, asked where were they exactly. All of a sudden he heard someone call him grandson, which sparked him. It was his grandpa. Out of excitement for seeing his grandson again, he clung to him tightly. Zhang Yi asked his grandpa how is he and what is that place. Grandpa answered that he liked the nursing home but he misses Grandma Zhao dearly. Hu Jiugong said his greetings to Mr. Zhang while Zhang Yi was carrying him like a doll. He turned his face towards Hu Jiugong, but he was not the one he is looking at. He was actually looking at Red Bean. He immediately gets off from Zhang Yi and rushed to shake the hand of the fine woman. Hu Jiugong tried to catch Grandpa's attention by telling him that they are here to talk about something very important with him. Grandpa looked back at him, but Zhang Yi is still clueless about what is happening. Hu Jiugong brought out something covered by a cloth which according to him took them a lot of effort to find. However, the thing is already tattered and torn. Also, he told him that the thing belongs to him. Grandpa, seated on the couch, asked Hu Jiugong what is that thing he is talking about. Hu Jiugong passed the thing to Grandpa. When he looked at it, he immediately saw the writings on the cover page, which is Heavenly Gift Notes. Zhang Yi is wondering what could be the content of that notes. Grandpa was carefully touching the note because he was scared that it might be completely torn by the slightest touch. He then gave it back to Hu Jiugong and told him that it doesn't belong to him. He also said that he had never seen it before. However, Red Bean doesn't seem to believe him. She urges Mr. Zhang to just admit that it was his. Hu Jiugong told him that they have been investigating him since the day he got here. In fact, they actually knew more about him than his grandson, the last heavenly gifted member of the Zhang family. Grandpa pretended to be sleeping, but Hu Jiugong told him that it wouldn't help him. He then quickly rose up while saying sorry for falling asleep. Hu Jiugong then told him that it also concerns his grandson's life, so he has to take it seriously. He only came here because he could not find anyone else who can help him. Mr. Zhang asked him to repeat what he said before the last thing he said. Hu Jiugong did so. He told him that it concerns Zhang Yi's life. Because of that, Mr. Zhang kicked him so hard. The kick was so hard that a part of the building has been destroyed. Zhang Yi was shocked at what his grandpa did. Mr. Zhang asked Hu Jiugong what did he do to Zhang Yi. He seems confused. Hu Jiugong was so scared and immediately told him that it wasn't him who hurt Zhang Yi. Mr. Zhang then eventually calmed down after making everything clear. He then apologized for the confusion. He told him that he is getting old and that his ears aren't as good as they used to be. Zhang Yi was still thinking about the heavenly gifted thing. He wondered what is truly going on. Hu Jiugong urged Mr. Zhang to cooperate. He was hoping that he could help him find the ancient Netherworld road. After all, Hu Jiugong could not finish his sentence because Mr. Zhang interrupted. After all, this concerns Zhang Yi's right to keep living as a spiritual entity, he said. Grandpa asked his grandson if he feels anything wrong with his body. Zhang Yi hesitated for a moment, but he then admitted that there is a thing called a soul-reaping chain or something inside his body. He also apologized for keeping it a secret from him all this time. Mr. Zhang stopped for a few seconds to think of their situation. Then he speaks. He asked Zhang Yi if he was thinking it right, that it was Mount Cranesong. Mr. Zhang then recalled the moment he saw Zhang Yi running around and covered with mud all over his body. He did not realize it back then. All he did is to order his grandson to come home with him. Mr. Zhang was heartbroken when he realized how senile he was before that he didn't recognize the changes in his grandson. Tears slowly formed in his eyes. Zhang Yi rushed to his grandfather to hug him tightly. He comforted him that it wasn't his fault and that he couldn't remember anything also. All of a sudden, the mood and face of the elder Zhang changed. Zhang Yi looked at him and waited for what he had to say. He told his grandson that even if he has something like that inside his body, he still looked pretty normal though. That's interesting. However, Zhang Yi told him that it wasn't as normal as he thinks. It also causes some inconvenience to him too. Mr. Zhang sighed because he thinks that his grandson would not be able to expand the Zhang family. Zhang Yi looked so clueless once again. He then realized that maybe it was because he is a spiritual entity and spiritual entities might not be able to reproduce. Grandpa wasn't sure, but he definitely won't have kids for sure. While the two are having a conversation, someone interrupted them. It was Hu Jiugong. He told Mr. Zhang that the mortal realm has been isolated for so long. Then he asked him if he still receives heavenly gifts. However, Mr. Zhang didn't answer him. Well, he didn't agree to his proposal yet. Hu Jiugong let the old man think of the matter, then he assured him that he will continue to protect his grandson even though he is an illegal spiritual entity. The two older men stared at each other for a few seconds as if they were testing each other. Zhang Yi then commended Hu Jiugong for having a very nice speech. Zhang Tianjin stood and said that if he wanted to keep his grandson alive, he will certainly live. He wanted to show that he doesn't need anyone else's assistance to do it. Hu Jiugong frowned and asked the old man for the last time to consider the situation they were all in. At the end of the day, the only person who can truly protect Zhang Yi is none other than him. The sun is about to set when they left. Red Bean asked Hu Jiugong if they still have to go even if Zhang Tianjin refuses. Hu Jiugong answered that they must find both the ancient Netherworld and the Guru. Well, for Zhang Yi, it will not matter if he's sacrificed for the sake of finding out the truth. Mr. Zhang then called his grandson to tell him some things. He told him that Hu Jiugong was telling the truth about him being the last heavenly gifted person in the Zhang family. But Zhang Yi don't understand. He asked his Granada what does being a heavenly gifted actually mean. Mr. Zhang started telling the story. A long time ago, all the worlds are connected to each other. When the physical body dies, the soul will drift to the other goals through these channels. Zhang Yi knew that his grandpa was talking about the 6 paths of reincarnation. Besides souls, the information of each world can also float to the other worlds through various special means. We, the Zhang family, can communicate directly with heaven and earth, thus obtaining knowledge from heaven. That is what a heavenly gift is. Zhang Yi was amazed that this was also true. All his life, he thought that these were all just myths. All of a sudden raised his hand and waved it in up and down motion, which confuses the old man, and so he asked what was he doing. Zhang Yi answered that he was just trying to see if he can receive any heavenly gifts. Mr. Zhang said that he will never agree to let Hu Jiugong be the guide because the ancient Netherworld is extremely dangerous. Actually, Mr. Zhang has already planned it all out before, but since he became a spiritual entity, he doesn't know if he can still support him with his plan. Zhang Yi started bragging about how good he was at tying people and saying that he doesn't need any support. But still, he has no spiritual power, and that won't help. Mr. Zhang gave a piece of paper to his grandson, a picture of the granddaughter of his old friend. He also said that they were almost finished closing the deal for this marriage arrangement. Zhang Yi was shocked when he saw who was in the photo. When the deal is done, he no longer has to worry about his life, said Grandpa. Zhang Yi shouted out of shock at this sudden revelation about his marriage arrangement. Mr. Zhang, however, was too delighted by how pretty and cheerful the young woman in the picture who turned out to be Zhang Yi's partner, Zuo Zai. Before the heavenly gift ritual take place, Mr. Zhang has to stay in a room prepared by Hu Jiugong specially for him. Mr. Zhang told him that only the Lifespan Management Bureau would build a staff quarter on the 18th underground floor. Zhang Yi then asked his grandpa if Bai Kai could also come and live there also. Hu Jiugong rejected his proposal since Bai Kai is a 6-wheel spiritual entity. It would be dangerous to let her out. Mr. Zhang interrupted, saying that he would also not let Bai Kai live outside for so long if he wasn't sure that she wasn't dangerous. Even though that is the case, he will not let Bai Kai live there unless her spiritual spell is in the hands of the Lifespan Management Bureau. Mr. Zhang then offered to hand the spiritual spell over to Zhang Yi since he is a Lifespan Management Bureau trainee. Hu Jiugong seems to have no other choice but to agree with what Zhang Yi wants. In the end, he agreed to let Bai Kai live there after their persistence. Zuo Zai was sitting outside when the three of them were passing in the hallways. Hu Jiugong asked her why was she still there. Zuo Zai answered that she still has to keep watch since there is a 6-wheel spiritual entity inside. Mr. Zhang was surprised to see the granddaughter of his friend. Zhang Yi quickly covered his grandfather's mouth before he spilled the deal about his marriage to Zuo Zai. Zhang Yi warned Mr. Zhang to not say anything about that deal, especially not with Zuo Zai. Zuo Zai was confused to see how Zhang Yi was behaving. Zhang Yi then introduces Zuo Zai to his grandfather as his partner. Zuo Zai was just as surprised as Mr. Zhang to see him. He then introduced himself properly to Zuo Zai, and he also said that he is, indeed, the one she saw on the video. Zuo Zai suddenly frowned. Then she yelled at Hu Jiugong for making the old man involved. Hu Jiugong then explained that he was just here to perform the heavenly gift ritual. It seems like Zuo Zai was getting confused about the heavenly gift ritual, but she is not. She actually knew about them. She was actually shocked to discover that Zhang Yi's grandfather was a heavenly gifted person. But that's not all. She also realized that the old man in front of her was actually Zhang Tianjin. Her grandfather must have already mentioned him to her before. He asked her if her grandfather already discussed about something with her. Zuo Zai quickly shook her head from side to side to show that he did not mention anything, but it seems like she was just lying. She certainly knew it. She told herself that Zhang Yi was Zhang Tianjin's grandson. So that means Zhang Yi was her betrothed. Their hands met each other after Mr. Zhang put them together, which made the two of them turn red. Mr. Zhang told them that partners are sometimes like husband and wife too, which made them even redder. Partners also have to fully understand, trust and cooperate with each other. Finally, he asked them to be sure to get along well. All of a sudden, a loud bang was heard from outside. All of them waited for whoever must be that person behind the door. It was Bai Kai. Someone asked Bai Kai if it was all right that Grandpa will hand the spiritual spell over to Zhang Yi today. She then told Mr. Zhang to not worry, for she will behave well and will always take care of Zhang Yi all the time. Mr. Zhang knew that Bai Kai is smart. She understands a lot even if he didn't say anything. He then proceeded to summon the spiritual spell. Zhuo Zai was confused about the spiritual spell, so Hu Jiyugong explained to her that it is a method to control spirits born from a combination of sorcery and witchcraft. A spiritual spell is divided into a parent's spiritual spell and a child's spiritual spell. So theoretically, that means that Zhang Yi will be able to control Bai Kai after he receives the parent's spiritual spell. Zhang Yi watched his grandfather perform the ritual. After a few minutes, a thing with a bright color red emerges from his forehead. The same thing also emerges from Bai Kai's forehead. Zhang Yi and Bai Kai close their eyes as their grandpa performs the ritual. Red Bean suddenly showed up in the scene, which shocked Zhuo Zai. She wondered what was happening at that moment. Hu Jiyugong explained that they were planting a spiritual spell. Red Bean found the scene familiar to her, but she has not seen a spiritual spell being performed before. That is not what she was talking about. She said that she already attended wedding ceremonies before and the ritual kind of looked like one. Bai Kai and Zhang Yi both opened their eyes at the same time. Zhuo Zai stared at them while the ritual is going on. Zhang Yi recalled the ups and downs he had experienced so far after they took his grandfather away from him. From the moment when he broke into the Lifespan Management Bureau, where he accidentally ended up in Zhuo Zai's room, gaining the ability to tie a spiritual entity, up until when he ended up getting frozen by a higher-up in the Lifespan Management Bureau. But now, everything seems to have calmed back down. That day, Mr. Zhang yelled at his grandson, Zhang Yi, for the way he talked to him, which he was not expected to him to do so. However, Zhang Yi made his point clear. Even though he is his grandfather, he can't just wander around the Lifespan Management Bureau and flirt with every woman he sees. Mr. Zhang Yi made a foolish face and started making reasons for his behavior. He was just a lonely old man looking for some company, he said. Even so, Zhang Yi wasn't easily swayed by his speech. He then warned his grandfather to stop harassing female staffs of the bureau right now in a very straightforward manner. Meanwhile, someone rang the doorbell. It was Zhuo Zai, who was carrying a backpack and dressed properly. As soon as she entered, she gazed around as if she was looking for someone. Mr. Zhang immediately noticed Zhuo Zai, so he waved his hand to her and asked her to come sit with them. Unlike his grandfather, Zhang Yi wasn't that happy to see her. He wondered what might be the reason for her to come to their place. Thus, Zhuo Zai dropped her backpack on the floor and went straight to where the three of them were sitting. The reason why Zhuo Zai went there was to make sure that their stories about what happened concerning Zhang Yi were matching, especially with Zhang Yi. The story should go like this: the person responsible for the death of Hades and his friends is a psychopathic murderer. Bao Hui was supposed to be the fourth victim, but Zhang Yi rescued him just in time. Unfortunately, Zhang Yi died while battling with the criminal. On the other hand, Zhang Yi was wondering why do they have to make a story to preserve his reputation despite all the bad things he had done. However, Zhuo Zai doesn't seem to care less. All of a sudden, Zhuo Zai seemed to forget about her pride. She slowly looked down and called Bai Kai. Mr. Zhang grinned as if he knew what Zhuo Zai was about to do next. In that instance, Zhuo Zai asked Bai Kai if she already finished her homework and then beseeched her to let her copy it. Zhang Yi's eyes circled after hearing about homework. He has just realized that they have to go to school that day. That day at Tangying High, there were a lot of reporters, each making a news report behind the principal, who gave a warm welcome to Zhang Yi, who was trying to sneak into the campus without drawing attention, especially from the principal. Zhang Yi asked what was going on. Why were the reporters there? And why was the principal suddenly so glad to see him? The principal suddenly grabbed Zhang Yi and introduced him proudly to the reporters. He also pointed out that he was the one who fought the criminal together with Zhang Yi. Because of that, the crowd cheered for him. The reporters then asked if he was up for an interview. The principal continued talking. He bragged that he already believes Zhang Yi ever since, and he often teaches him by example. However, Zhang Yi could not handle how he was faking it all, yet he has to endure it. Someone from the crowd asked him about his thoughts on Zhang Yi's sacrifice. The first question was not yet answered, but there goes another. The reporter asked what he might want to tell Zhang Yi right at that moment. Zhang Yi recalled what truly happened that day, but he also remembered the story Zhuo Zai told him to say to anyone who will ask. With that in mind, he started talking about how great and brave person Zhang Yi is. He told them has such a great sense of responsibility. After dealing with the crowd outside, Zhang Yi then headed straight to where Bao Hui is. As he was walking, he was thinking about what the principal told him, that Bao Hui has changed a lot. He finally arrived at the anime club to see Bao Hui. When he opened the door, he immediately saw someone in a pink dress. Zhang Yi was surprised to see that that person turns out to be Bao Hui himself. He was not just wearing a dress, he even wore a blonde wig. Because of what he saw, Zhang Yi felt so nauseous and felt like he wanted to vomit blood. All of a sudden, he was thrown outside the room. He looked up looking so scared. He then asked the person in front of him if he was really Bao Hui. Bao Hui confirmed his identity right away. Zhang now felt more nauseous than ever. He thought that Bao Hui turned into a retard because of the amount of memory erased from him. Clueless about what Zhang Yi was thinking, he asked him why does he look so terrible. Zhang Yi doesn't want to tell him everything, and so he just told him that he was just fine. Bao Hui became suspicious when Zhang Yi brought up that he once spent a night at his place before. Because of that, he immediately turned red. Zhang Yi then yelled that it wasn't what he was thinking. He must have misheard him, he said. He wanted to clarify things out now, so he asked Bao Hui when was the last time he saw him. Bao Hui answered arrogantly that it was when he and Zhang Yi saved him, thinking that Zhang Yi has forgotten about it already. Bao Hui continued talking about what he thought happened that day. He was captured by the psychotic, murdered, and was almost disgraced. But luckily, he and Zhang Yi came to save him just in time. While he was telling the story, his tears fell down his eyes. He then told him that he would never know how he should repay them for their kindness, especially for Zhang Fei, who has sacrificed his own life just to save him. Zhang Yi couldn't listen to his story anymore. He finds it very strange that his old memory has been replaced. Bao Hui immediately brought out a blue paper and placed it near Zhang Yi's face. He then explained that the paper was a ticket to the next Comic-Con. There's no way that he will repay him with his body, as if Zhang Yi would want his body as payment, so he just invited him to one of his performances. He even asked him to pick the outfit that he will use for that performance. Zhang Yi felt so awkward about all this. He thinks that it is not necessary for him to do so. But despite his refusal on picking the outfit for him, Bao Hui still kept on suggesting outfit ideas to him that made him feel worse. Zhang Yi ran away to escape Bao Hui, who was being so delusional, but he chased him anyway. With Bao Hui being so eager to not get a hold of Zhang Yi, he tried to keep up to his pace, but Zhang Yi ran faster and finally got rid of him. He thought to himself, Bao Hui is so much scarier now than when he was such a troublesome. All of a sudden, he remembered Bao Hui's face when he first saw him in that dress. It seems like that figure will continue to hunt him for days. While complaining about keep on remembering his face, someone tapped him on his back. Because of that, Zhang Yi became scared as a kitten found by its predator. Luckily, it wasn't whom he was expecting. It was actually Gudong. She offered him water just in time when he really needs it. Zhang Yi waited for a moment to let Gudong speak first, just to find out what she remembers that day. Gudong then told him that she saw him dealing earlier with a lot of reporters, so she got him a bottle of water, and Zhang Yi thanked her for it. Suddenly, Gudong looked down as if she was embarrassed about something. She thought that Zhang Yi is just as upset as she is, which is absolutely not. So, Zhang Yi got confused and wondered what must be the reason that he was supposedly upset by that time. He waited for Gudong to tell him more about why should he be upset without asking her directly. Fortunately, Gudong continued talking. Turns out that she was upset because the slightest hope that her brother may still be alive is now gone. And now, there's Zhang Yi. She told him that there was a joint event in their club with the student council way before the incident happened. However, it all ended without her thanking him for it. It seems like she only lost her memories about the day of the incident, since she still remembers everything before that. Zhang Yi looked at her and noticed that there is water forming in the side of her eyes. Zhang Yi couldn't do anything but to beg her to stop crying. All of a sudden, Gudong looked at Zhang Yi and then ran towards him. Gudong embraced him tightly for some comfort. While she was crying, she asked Zhang Yi why do bad things keep on happening to the people closest to her and to the people who are so kind to her, just like her brother and Zhang Yi. Because of that, Zhang Yi hugged her back to ease the weight of the burden she was carrying with her. Finally, she asked Zhang Yi to come and see Zhang Yi for the last time. Zhang Yi agreed to her idea, and so they both go to the place where Zhang Yi was buried. The two of them paid their respect to their late friend and offered some flowers to him. At first, Gudong found Zhang Yi's name strange because it sounded the same as Justice, but as days go by, she came to realize that his name fits him well. He is, indeed, filled with a sense of justice. He even got to uphold the school rules no matter how chaotic their school was. She also told Zhang Yi that Bao Hui is different now. He is now a member of the anime club and is a cosplayer now. Lastly, she thanked him for making her believe that justice does exist. Zhang Yi then wondered whether he should be satisfied with that outcome or not. In that spur of a moment, a familiar voice to Zhang Yi called their attention and asked them if they were Zhang Yi's friends. She has silver hair and makeup like a clown. Zhang Yi was alarmed as soon as he saw her, but Gudong remained calm since she has no idea who she is. She gazed at them with her red eyes as if she wouldn't do anything good. Zhang Yi trembled and was confused about why she was there. He tried to think about a reason why she suddenly appeared, but he could not think of anything. One thing is for sure, he has to protect Gudong at all costs, and so he asked her to stand back. Gudong was confused why Zhang Yi suddenly became so overprotective after seeing the girl. The girl then told them that she was actually Zhang Yi's cousin. With that, Zhang Yi became more careful and tried to think about what she was trying to do. However, before anything bad happens, Zhang Yi told her that they were done with their business there and then urges Gudong to leave. The girl continued talking. She told them that she just got there from abroad and that happened to Zhang Yi. Despite that, Zhang Yi was eager to make Gudong leave immediately. Unfortunately, Gudong did not do what Zhang Yi said. She thinks that it is rude to just leave her be. She wanted to tell her what happened. Zhang Yi wanted to tell her that she just forgot how dangerous that girl is, but he could not. The girl told Gudong that she was glad to run into her and then asked her what truly happened to her cousin. Zhang Yi knew that the girl was after him, so he had to make a plan in order to make Gudong go first. Having no other way, Zhang Yi just told her to go for the reason that it might take some time. At first, he refuses to leave, but Zhang Yi forced her. He raised his voice just to make it clear to her how badly she needs to get away fast. In that case, Gudong now agreed to leave. Gudong was already in the taxi when she came up with a not-so-good idea. With this intention, she made the taxi driver turn back around, telling him that she left something at the cemetery. At last, she arrived at the cemetery. She walked up the stairs to go where she left the girl with Zhang Yi. All of a sudden, her calm face turned into a surprised one because of what she witnessed as soon as she arrived at the place. Zhang Yi noticed her. He was just as shocked as her in that moment. He then asked her why she come back. The girl also looked at Gudong when she noticed her presence. It turns out, he tied the girl with his rope and he was actually carrying her when Gudong arrived. That is why she was so shocked. The girl started sobbing with the purpose of playing the victim. She also told Zhang Yi that he couldn't just kidnap a girl he was interested in. Zhang Yi felt awkward with what she was saying, but the girl was not done yet. She then called Gudong and begged her for some help. While the girl was uttering these lies, Zhang Yi warned Gudong to not believe what she was saying. All of a sudden, Gudong got mad and Zhang Yi smacked the girl on her butt for talking so many nonsense lies. Because of that, she shouted out loud as if she was suffering great pain just to make Gudong side with her. Gudong couldn't take it anymore, so she gripped her fist tightly to show her anger. Then she told the girl to stop making false accusations about Zhang Yi. Not because she was Zhang Yi's cousin, she could easily get away with these. Zhang Yi was shocked at how Gudong reacted, and so was the girl tied up. She knew that Zhang Yi would not such things, she said, because he is known as an upright, brave, and kind person. There must be a reason why she tied him up, she said. She then asked Zhang Yi if is it something terrible that requires her to go with him to the nearest police station. Zhang Yi could not believe the words that Gudong was saying. He freaked out for knowing that Gudong really believed in him. She then made it clear that the Zhang Yi she knew was someone worth believing when he asked her. Zhang Yi seemed to be almost crying at the thought of her believing him, even when he himself is having a hard time believing in himself at some times. Because of that, the girl was annoyed. She wasn't expecting her to react like that. She was supposed to be the naive girl, she said. Because Gudong wouldn't fall to her tricks, she cut the rope herself. After getting herself out of the rope, she threatens Gudong that she would slice her head open. To see what is wrong with it, Zhang Yi ran immediately to keep the girl from hurting poor Gudong with the scissors she was holding. He tried his best to reach out for the scissors before they reached Gudong first. At the right time, he grabbed the by his hand, making it bleed. A few drops of blood landed on Gudong's face because of it. The girl got annoyed once more. She then slit Zhang Yi's belly with the weapon she was holding, making him bleed even more. Zhang Yi fell to the ground and Gudong ran immediately towards him to check if he was okay. Showing no remorse for what she had done, she licked Zhang Yi's blood on the blade of her scissors. Then she told him he tasted so good that she now wants to stitch him up into her body so that he will become a part of her. Zhang Yi tried to stand and told the girl that he will never be up for her fetish. All of a sudden, the girl sensed something coming. Because of that, she told Zhang Yi to take good care of Gudong and prepares to leave. But before leaving, she asked him to not chase after her because they will definitely meet again if they are meant to cross paths again. But that will only happen if he happens to live long enough. She said this as a threat. She then left the two of them there. Gudong assisted Zhang Yi to stand, but after a few seconds, she fell asleep. Someone appeared behind Zhang Yi as Gudong lay on the ground. Zhang Yi's eyes turned to see the person next to him. When his eyes met her, she asked him to come with her. Zhang Yi was hesitant to go with her since she was a stranger, and so the woman introduced herself to him. Her name is Dang, 28 years old, 172 centimeters tall. She also included her measurements, which are 84, 62, 86. After telling him this, she urged him to now come with her. Still, Zhang Yi would not go, and so the woman told him that it was just a safety protocol as mentioned by Hu Jiyugong. Shen then asked Zhang Yi once again to go with her, and she needed his body. Zhang Yi's face turned red after hearing what the woman said. And still, he doesn't want to go even if she needs his body. The woman sighed and then told him that since he was not cooperating, he has to go with her lying down on his back. Zhang Yi did not understand what the woman said, but he noticed the box thingy floating near her. All of a sudden, the thing expanded and hit him. Because of that, Zhang Yi was thrown away. He crashed into the ground so badly. After crashing, he thought that it was so powerful, and after a few minutes, he slowly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he wasn't in the cemetery anymore. He is in a different place. He was lying in a bed and noticed the things around the room. After a few seconds, he then noticed that he was tied up in the bed. Not only his hands are tied up, even his feet are. He noticed the strange woman who appeared earlier was also in the room with him. She was reading a book when he woke up. She then realized that Zhang Yi has already woken up. Actually, she wasn't expecting him to gain consciousness that fast divided by. Zhang Yi looked into her and observed what she is going to do. The woman started to put on her gloves and her mask as if she was going to perform some kind of operation on Zhang Yi. After putting all the necessary things, she then announced that she will begin her thing now. Zhang Yi whined so loudly. He thought that the woman will force herself into him, so he asked her to stop it and persuaded her to at least make it consensual. All of a sudden, he screamed so loudly as if the woman had struck him with something. As soon as Bai Kai woke up, she went to Zhang Yi's room right away. But she was shocked by what she discovered. The room was empty. He wasn't there. She wondered where might he be at this hour. To ease her curiosity, she then asked Grandpa if he did not come back last night. Grandpa answered with a tricky answer. He told her that he is a young man, and young men are full of vigor, so it wouldn't be a strange thing if they spend a night or two outside. Finally, he told her that maybe he was with his future daughter-in-law doing something like making a baby, even though they definitely cannot have one. Bai Kai just sighed at all the things her grandpa has told her. After that, she grabbed her laptop and then opened it. Even though Bai Kai seems a little annoyed, he still told her to make a copy for him if she finds any clue, since it is Zhang Yi's first time. However, it seems like Bai Kai couldn't care less about what Grandpa wants her to do. She told him that she was just going for her morning exercise. But after a few clicks, she was again shocked by what she had just discovered. Bai Kai slammed the picture on the table, acting so furious. Hu Jiugong, who was sitting quietly before she came, asked her what is wrong. Bai Kai asked him why the Lifespan Management Bureau Area 11 supervisor captured Zhang Yi. He was confused by her news. He told her that the Lifespan Management Bureau has no plan to capture him. However, Dang is personally obsessed with things like Netherworld artifacts and the 6 paths of reincarnation. Maybe she became interested in the soul reaping chain which is inside his body. Quickly, he grabbed his coat and put it on. He told her that he will go to bring him back alone. But Bai Kai did not agree. She wanted to go too. However, Hu Jiugong made her remember that she cannot go since she is an illegal spiritual entity after all. If Dang sees her, she will definitely not let her go free just because he asked her to. Bai Kai answered that Zhang Yi is also an illegal spiritual entity, so that will apply to him too. In that case, it will be better if she will go too to have an advantage in a 2 versus 1 battle. Hu Jiugong didn't know what to do, but he knew that Bai Kai has a point. That afternoon, Dang has been busy using surgical tools to experiment on Zhang Yi's body and his ability. After a lot of cutting and drilling, she admitted that his body is a kind of perfection. His severed limb regenerates 3 times faster compared to other spiritual entities, and the speed at which his wounds close is 6 times faster compared to ordinary spiritual entities. She wondered whether the soul reaping chain was the one responsible for such an ability. While thinking about that, she stared at Zhang Yi's chest where the soul reaping chain is located. She was thinking to cut it open, until she shook her head, disagreeing with her own idea. She looked at Zhang Yi again and told herself that he was just an inexperienced brat. However, she proceeded to what she referred to as the last step. She put her hand near Zhang Yi's chest, but she stopped after someone outside interrupted her, telling her to freeze. After that, the door of the room has been smashed open. Dang looked in their direction with no reaction on her face. She wasn't even shocked. It was Hu Jiugong. He warned Dang to refrain from doing any movement or else she might die. Bai Kai was with him. She looked at Dang, who was about to cut Zhang Yi open. She discovered Zhang Yi lying on the bed, and so she called her, but he wasn't conscious at that time. Not afraid of Hu Jiugong and Bai Kai's entrance, she told them that she will not allow them to take Zhang Yi, for she wasn't done yet with him. Bai Kai stared at her after saying such a thing. Bai Kai started summoning her spiritual power right away. Dang, who was showing no emotion, finally got a little bit shocked for seeing her do that. Bai Kai then warned her that she will not allow anyone to hurt Zhang Yi. Dang also summoned her power, and in one blow, the room got blown into chaos. Smoke arises after the blast, making it hard for them to see for a moment. Hu Jiugong wanted them to stop, but he said it sarcastically. Dang rushed towards Bai Kai for another attack. While all this was happening, Hu Jiugong noticed that Zhang Yi was still lying there. All of a sudden, Dang calms down. Hu Jiugong asked her to stop battling now. Then Bai Kai goes to Zhang Yi, who was still unconscious and was covered with his own blood due to Dang's experimentation. Bai Kai couldn't help but feel pity for him for what he had just suffered. Hu Jiugong tried to convince Dang to let them take Zhang Yi when she asked him to give her a good reason to allow it. Hu Jiugong told her that his grandfather is the last heavenly gifted person and they need their cooperation. However, Dang told him that the heavenly gifted won't cause any good with the way the worlds are disconnected now. He replied that the 24 Lifespan Management Bureau area supervisors have decided to perform the heavenly gift ritual even with a sliver of hope. But still, Dang doesn't allow them to take him. Hu Jiugong then told her that he has already said all that is need to be said, and if she continues to act like that, she will only leave him no choice. Dang looked at Hu Jiugong and think for some time. She then told Hu Jiugang to save all his speech and take him away before she changes her mind. Finally, that means that he won't have to lay his hands on her. At last, Zhang Yi has already woken up, and when he opened his eyes, she saw Bai Kai's face so close to him. After realizing it, he almost jumped off the bed. Because of that, Bai Kai also wakes up. She suddenly grabbed his hands before he falls off the bed and pulled him towards her. Because of that, Zhang Yi landed exactly on Bai Kai. Bai Kai, who was under him, stared at his eyes. Zhang Yi did too. Then they quickly separate from each other before it became so awkward. He then told her that it is becoming her habit to climb on his bed. Bai Kai asked if it really seems like that and he agreed. After that, both of them simultaneously remembered Dang and her obsession with Zhang Yi's body. Bai Kai sit up and comforted him by saying that it is all right now. She and Hu Jiugong brought him back. Suddenly, he asked her if she won't think of him as dirty since Dang has disgraced him. Bai Kai put her finger on Zhang Yi's mouth to shut him up. Then she told him that she will always be by his side no matter what happened. Zhang Yi was moved by Bai Kai's kindness to him. All of a sudden, his grandpa appeared and smashed his head. He could not believe that his grandson has been kidnapped by a woman and he actually need an old man like him to save him. Zhang Yi asked him to stop bluffing since it wasn't him who saved him, it was Hu Jiugong and Bai Kai. However, Mr. Zhang told him that if it wasn't for him, who they need to perform the ritual, Dang will not let them take him back. Zhang Yi was shocked when he realized that the woman who kidnapped him was actually also from the Lifespan Management Bureau. Apparently, his grandpa agreed to perform the heavenly gift ritual just to make his grandson a legal spiritual entity. He can't believe that in his old age, he still needed to do such sacrifices for his grandson. While his grandfather is bragging about that, Zhang Yi asked him if the heavenly ritual was a dangerous one. Mr. Zhang did not answer him directly, but he told him that after the ritual he will become so weak that he needed young beautiful women to feed him expensive food every day. While the two are having a conversation, Zhang Yi's phone rang. When Zhang Yi checked his phone, he discovered that it was Gudong who was calling.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Leave a comment for the next part, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next video.